ZB Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Game Nashville Studios. It is a Reaction Monday. Ian, what kind of Monday is it?
It's a Titans Monday.
It's a Titans Monday on Stillman and Company. Very, very, very excited to be here today. It is roster cut down day tomorrow. And so I listened to Brian Callahan's press conference, and Brian Callahan, you could tell, does not like roster cut down day. I get it. I don't think I would like roster cut down day if I was a coach either. In fact, I remember the old man used to say that cutting people was the hardest thing that he would have to do as a GM. And the reason he said that was, he goes, if you work a regular job, he's like, if you're a banker and that's your job, chances are when you were in the third grade, you didn't dream of one day becoming a banker. You just happened to, be a banker. Well, obviously, when it comes to football, these guys that are playing football, for the most part, have probably dreamed about being football players. So we understand the humanity aspect of this, and I want everybody to know that ahead of time so that there is no question. Does the Stillman and Company program understand the value of the player or whatever when we talk about this guy sucks or that guy's going to be cut or what? Yes, we do. Want to get that out of the way. All right, I want to start with the players that actually matter and the plays that mattered and the guys that are going to be making a difference, deciding whether or not you win or lose on Sundays. And I thought yesterday was a very solid performance from the Tennessee Titans, specifically the first team. And I thought it was a great first drive. I thought they had a good mix of run and a good mix of pass, and they're moving the football down the field, and Tony Pollard's running the ball. Boy, Tony Pollard ran the ball very well yesterday. It was a solid showing from the big boys up front, from the guys, the young guys with the high draft choices on the left side, from Latham and Peter Skoronski. Cushenberry, I saw the coach's tape, got out on one and annihilated a guy on either one of the runs or one of the screens. And not a bad showing on the right side from Dylan Radens or Nicholas Petit-Frere, Ian.
PT.
Not a bad performance at all. The play calling was creative. They got guys open. They picked up big chunk plays. I mean, after the game, Brian Callahan said, I wanted to get Pollard the ball. I wanted to get Tyler Boyd a catch. And Tyler Boyd had a nice little catch. I wanted to get Calvin Ridley the ball, and Calvin Ridley got a ball. Levis, for the most part, put the ball where it needed to go. Did not like that throw where he airlofted it into the end zone. I mean, hey, put some zip on the fastball, Will. But other than that, I thought Levis was good. I thought everybody got involved. Everybody got their touches. They punched the ball into the end zone. No complaints from me. Period. Zero. And I know a lot of you come to this program sometimes because you want to hear, what's Jared going to bitch about today? But let me just say this. I just want you all to know I don't criticize if there's not a reason to criticize. And yesterday, the Titans offensive and the defensive starters that played, granted, there was no Simmons and there was no Landry and there was no Snead, but the guys who did play, they did what they needed to do in order to get the confidence to go into Chicago 13 days from today. Because that's what this is all about. And I know somebody will say, but Jared, the Saints didn't play any of their starters. And I didn't look at the substitution chart. I'm not sure I recognized a single player the Saints played as an actual Saints player. Like, I recognize Spencer because I know where he went to college. But, Ian, do you recognize any of those players the Saints put out there yesterday?
I don't think I did, no.
As far as, being actual NFL players.
I've heard them play before in a regular season game.
Yeah, I mean, what's the St. Brown, the Detroit receiver, his brother that played in Chicago?
Yeah, he's played some. Equanimous has played a little bit, but
he ain't Chris Olave.
He's not a starter, no.
No. And so a lot of people say, but Jared, the Saints didn't even play their starters, so how can you be excited about the fact that the offense moved the ball right down the field? Congratulations, Titans defense. You stopped Jake Hayner. But let me say this. You can only play who New Orleans puts out there. Granted, I'd feel a lot better if it had come against the Saints starters. I'd feel a lot better if it had come against the Saints starters. I'd have felt great if Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Gabe Jeudy-Lally and those guys were going up again against Chris Olave, or if the linebackers were covering Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. Sure. But again, you can't control who the other team's going to play. So what's really important about a preseason game like that is that the Titans offense get the confidence that so far, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they really had, because of training camp, because of the practices against the Seahawks, because their drives against the Niners, like it was like an 8-play drive that started at the 15-yard line. This is the one where they got the ball and they moved it effectively down the field and they blocked up front and they caught the ball and they had creative play calling and Tony Pollard ran it and everything that we hope to see in the regular season. That is what that offense is supposed to look like. Add in DeAndre Hopkins. So I am very, very pleased with what I saw out of the Titans starters. I'm not going to lie to you. There's only 20 of these a year, including the 3 preseason games. There's only 20 of these a year. And I get jazzed up for Titan football. But about 35 minutes after I sat down to watch the game, I honestly could have clicked the TV off and been like, seen all I needed to see. That's good, to whatever, move on. But again, now I think we start to have some answers. We know who's going to be the quarterback. We know who's going to play right guard and right tackle. We know who's going to be the inside linebacker for this team. We know the pass rushers. We know Arden Key's back. And now we know that it all counts going forward. But I'm not going to front and pretend that I didn't have massive concerns about could this team look like a functional offense after what they had been putting out there in practice. I was so disappointed by what they didn't do against the Seahawks starters in practice that I really wondered, could this offense move the football effectively? Now, I heard Brian Callahan make a comment today in his press conference talking about, now look, I know who's coming. I know who's going to be in the next, I know who we're getting ready to play. I.e., I know Montez Sweat is getting ready to suit up for the Chicago Bears. I know it. I know it's going to be different than playing the Saints backups. So he's not unfamiliar with that either. But again, it's the preseason. You can only control who the other team plays. Do I look at the performance yesterday and all of a sudden say, greatest show on turf, Rams? No, of course not. That'd be crazy talk. But do I look at it and say, hey, if they get rolling, if they really, stick to their bread and butter, could this offense score some points to give us some meaningful football to watch? And the only takeaway you can have yesterday is yes. I understand. If it were spring training baseball, I'd like to see 4 for 4 with 2 home runs off of Randy Johnson. But if I have to take it off of Billy Johnson instead of Randy Johnson, it's still better than 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. So yesterday, looking at the starters, I feel like they did what they needed to do. Then I think the backups came in, and I don't know really at this point how many guys were competing for spots. But the backups came in, and they didn't totally let them down. And Malik, how about that touchdown pass from Malik?
Nice one.
Is that not the best pass you've seen Malik Willis throw ever?
Yeah, it might be that one and the one that Chris Conley dropped.
That one Chris Conley dropped was a good one. So again, all in all, a great day for Titan football. And they played the starters and nobody got hurt except Chance Campbell, which sucks for him. It sucks. And he was I thought he was actually going to play some football for the Titans this year, so I don't like that. But all in all, a good day for the Titans. Now we wait. Now we wait 13 days, and I can promise you we'll be a lot more emotional one way or another 14 days from now. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. There was something I could tell. He doesn't even have to say it. I don't even know if he would say it. But there is something I could tell about Brian Callahan yesterday that I actually agree with. That I think if he did this for this reason, I agree with it. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. It's a Titans Monday, and it's Stillman and Company on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Will Levis already 4 completions, 65 yards. Tony Pollard, the tailback, just behind him. Classic I formation with the fullback.
Look who that is in the backfield.
Pollard right side, touchdown Tennessee.
That was Daniel Brunskill, backup offensive lineman, starting right guard last year, who lined up at fullback and led him into the end zone.
Tony Pollard, 6 touchdowns last year as a Cowboy in the regular season. And punches that one in on 1st and goal in a textbook opening drive for the Titans starters.
I hesitate to make any sort of prediction on preseason operation, but for us, just to see guys go out and play well, execute well, and then go score points, that's the job. I mean, that's part of what playing offense in the NFL is. And so to see that is a positive first step. And it's really encouraging to see those guys play well in those spots. So I'm happy with that.
Amen. First team offense gets the ball. We know they're going out there against the Saints second team. And I'm like, please, please, please put the ball in the end zone. Please. Because, I mean, what the worst thing that could have happened is if the Titans offense got the ball, stalled 3 and out, and then they, have a 9-play drive and kick a field goal. And then you guys would be like, no, Jared, they weren't scheming up. They weren't doing anything. You'd have to make excuses. And I'd be sitting here saying they scored 3 points against the Saints second team. But they didn't. They went right down the field and they put the ball in the end zone. Couple of screens, nice little one over there to Nick Vannett. Levis hits Tyler Boyd. They run the ball effectively with Tony Pollard. All the things that we would love. We'd be giddy if we saw that against Chicago. They were able to do. And I could tell how important that opening drive was for Brian Callahan. I could tell. Because normally you don't see creative play calling the way we saw creative play calling yesterday. You think it's just vanilla, we're not scheming it, you think they're throwing a tight end screen to Nick Vannett? You think they're going to try to run that reverse with Jaquan Jackson? You think they want to put those things on tape? If it's not hey, we want to run these plays, we want to scheme it up, and we want to put the ball in the end zone. It was almost like Brian Callahan decided, you know what? I'm going to fire a couple of real bullets today. Like, I'm going to take some shots, which if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback and we knew that we had a good team or what, I would say, no, don't do that. We don't need to do that. Quarterback's got plenty of confidence. He'll be okay week 1. But that's not where the Titans are. And I do not have a problem at all with Brian Callahan's decision to scheme up some plays and run them effectively in a meaningless preseason game against the Saints backups. I have no problem with that at all. Trevor always talks about the idea of confidence or success. Which comes first, confidence or success? And he would argue that success actually comes before confidence. I asked Will Levis about the Atlanta game. One time we were sitting down at the Super Bowl. I said, what did the Atlanta game mean to you? And he was like, it told me that I knew I could do it, but it told me that I could do it. Confidence is very important. So Brian Callahan went to the well. He went to his bag of offensive tricks because he wanted the offense to have success in this meaningless preseason game, to have confidence for the game against Chicago. I don't blame it. How about the little bootleg, roll out, dump it off? Simple and creative. Nice little route by Tyler Boyd. Will Levis pushing the ball the opposite, outside the numbers from the opposite hash. Get that confidence. And what I love too is when somebody stinks in the preseason, when a team stinks, when it's bad and it's oh my God, shield your eyes. I can't. Oh my God. It's always, well, we're not scheming things up. We're trying to be vanilla. We're not. Those are always the excuses. Every time. In fact, I remember the first year I was here, the Titans, that was the Ken Wisenhunt year. They were 13-3. He got fired in the middle of the year. They had the number 1 pick, traded to the Rams. That team was so bad. And it was so apparent in the preseason. And I remember the excuses. They didn't scheme it up. And they played a preseason game on the road at Kansas City. And somebody just took a pass and ran down the sideline with it. And Floyd said at the time, he goes, that's not, he's letting a guy run with the ball down the sideline. That's not scheme. That's scheming anything up to keep that from happening. You're talking about scheme. And I was like, oh, so what that is it's just an excuse. When you don't play well, you just say, oh, well, we didn't scheme. It's your typical, I wasn't trying. Don't count that one against me. Brian Callahan knew yesterday, he knew they couldn't stink. He knew they could not afford to go out there and play terribly. Because if they did, think about how much we would be talking about how embarrassing it is that the offense went out there against the Saints backups and didn't score. So instead, again, I don't think he emptied the bag in a meaningless preseason game against the Saints, but he definitely went to the bag. And again, I'm okay with it because this team needs confidence going into Chicago. The truth is, there's a lot of concerns I have about this football team right now, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. They ain't changing before you play the Bears. I'm not a fan of PT, but that's not changing before Chicago. So let's, if nothing else, and I understand the philosophy and the thinking, and I'm for it, let's get some confidence against the Scarbinis of the Saints. And then that way, for 2 weeks, you think you can beat Chicago. And what happened yesterday probably has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not you will beat Chicago. But I think it's important. And so even if he wasted a couple of the good plays just in order to get some confidence going into the season, I'm for it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com on a Titans Monday. One texter says, Tony Pollard is number one on the depth chart. No question about it. I agree. And this is not a knock on Spears. But I agree that Tony Pollard is probably the number one running back on this team. I've actually been saying that, I feel like, for a while now. But there was one thing that I started thinking about yesterday. Pollard's probably the best player in the offense. Like, if we just had to rank them 1 through 20 or 1 through 11, and again, what the running back can do is not the same as what a really good receiver can do. That's why they don't get paid the same. And certainly running back is not as important as quarterback, not as important as left tackle, not as important as, but if you were to just say, okay, who is the best at what they do on the offense? I would argue that it's Tony Pollard. And it's like a basketball team. I want the best player to get the ball. So in this case, I expect to see a lot of Tony Pollard 2 weeks from now at Chicago. And I do think that Tony Pollard probably last year was slowed a little bit by the injury he was recovering from 2 years ago in Dallas. And I think that this is the Tony Pollard that Dallas paid $10.5 million to last year. The guy they wanted to franchise, who they said, no, we can get out with Zeke and we can move on and play Tony Pollard. And that was the Tony Pollard that I think the Titans have right now. And I'm not sure that was the Tony Pollard who last year was kind of, again, coming back from the broken leg that Tony Pollard probably had. One texter said, please complain about something. What about Rand's shirt? Did I miss something about Rand's shirt yesterday, Ian?
I did not see Rand's shirt.
I mean, I thought Rand was fine on the broadcast. I have no idea what shirt he wore.
I must have missed that part on the broadcast. I had it on, but I didn't have the sound going, so I must have missed that.
Did he wear a shirt that I don't know about? Like, did he wear like some kind of secret shirt?
I am unaware.
Why would I complain about Rand's shirt?
I'm not sure.
So I don't understand. Sometimes with you guys, I just don't understand. I just do not understand. Oh, goodness gracious. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program if you want to weigh in. I do have one other thing I want to touch on yesterday from the game that I think I had been waiting for. And I think deep down inside you had too, but I had seen it. And I hadn't seen it on the field. And then I saw it on the field yesterday. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company. Let's talk Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. You know I love Hiller. They take great care of my home. They can do the same for you. They're going out to Ian's house tomorrow because he's like, hey, they got the $99 drain cleaning. Ian wants to take advantage of that. Ian, let me know how they do tomorrow.
I sure will.
Summer is over, and it's time to get ready for school to start. School's already started, folks. Even though the kids have already headed back to school, you can leave the homework to Hiller. So this month, enjoy back-to-school savings with offers like a $99 drain cleaning, $500 off select high-efficiency HVAC systems, $500 off new tankless water heaters, and $1,000 off whole home generators. That's right. Visit happyhiller.com today for details. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller. Call the Happy Face truck today.
What you're saying sounds like an NCAA tournament committee who's watched all the way through, been locked in. But by the time you get to the last day, your decisions have essentially been made. Now you just have to see if you have to do any changes based off of injury or different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the work, we're never not working.
Right.
You know, even on this trip, you know, guys are working. We've met and we've talked and had conversations. Callie and I had conversations on the plane yesterday. We had conversations in pregame about who, you know, guys that could come available. So we're never not working. So you don't get to a point in the process where while we're cutting our team, we're trying to panic and rush back to get other teams figured out. But we've already done that work and put the work in. And, you know, you just sit back and kind of see how it all is going to unfold.
That was Rand Carthon yesterday in the booth. So the text line has spoken, Ian.
Okay, what about?
I wanted to talk about how Tavondre Sweat played yesterday because Tavondre Sweat, I thought, looked like a freaking beast.
He flashed. Yeah.
He flashed. You know, again, he had to, first of all, you know, the Saints run the ball right at him that one time, and it's like a black hole. It's like, do not run it to big boy,
he
folks.
Just anchored there, and the dude couldn't move him.
Now, granted, again, these are the Saints backups, but you have to show it against the backups before we, you know, see it get started. So he went, you know, right up the middle, right, and he swallowed him like Pac-Man. And then there was another one where the young quarterback for the Saints, I think it was Haener was in at the time, and Haener drops back, and it's like, oh, dear God, he's coming for me. And he threw the ball. And so I want to talk about that. about how Tavondre Sweat showed what I had seen at practice. And I said, I want to see it against San Francisco. And then I didn't see it against San Francisco. And I said, damn it, I wanted to see it. That's all I wanted. And then everybody had to make excuses. Oh, they double teamed him, Jared. Oh, just wait till Simmons is there and you'll see. I'm like, it's the backups of the 49ers. I want to see Sweat do his thing because I know he can do his thing because I've seen it in practice. Sweat did his thing yesterday. But the text line has decided they don't want to talk about that. The text line wants to talk about Rand Carthon's shirt. So much so that I literally had to pull up YouTube TV and go to the game, which I have DVR'd. I go to the game and go to Rand on the broadcast and look at the shirt he's wearing. I watched the game when it happened. I watched it this morning when I was cutting the cuts of Rand in the booth, and I did not at one time notice his shirt at all. So I went back and I looked at it during this break because so many of you have texted in. People saying, oh, it was a terrible green sweater, Jared. His shirt was a little casual. Joe Rexroad and Robbie said that you would complain about Rand's green sweatshirt. Somebody said, I want Rand wearing Titans logos. Rand wore a green shirt, no logo or branding. I assume that the texter is implying that he wants Rand to wear a Titan shirt or a blue shirt out there. Blah, blah. I mean, it is so many. Some people are looking for subliminal messages in the green shirt. Somebody put in there. I don't care. I don't care about Rand's shirt. Whether it was a shirt or a sweater, to me, it looked like a green sweater. It looked like if you went into Nordstrom or Nordstrom Rack or Macy's or whatever and just said, hey, I need a sweater to wear that's kind of casual for the preseason, certainly not super dress up. You can't like wear a sport coat over it. This is what I want. I do not care about that. I mean, and I know, like some people say, well, you know, maybe he was being sarcastic or they were joking this or they were. And see, that's the stuff that honestly kind of pisses me off a little bit. I'm going to tell you why. Because I criticize Rand when I feel like he says or does something worth criticizing. When he trades away Kevin Byard and doesn't hold a press conference, I think that's worth criticizing. When he gets up there and he says after the press conference that the ball didn't bounce their way after that horrible season that we watched last year, I find that to be insulting and I criticize it. When he says things like, we checked every box for on offense this year that we wanted in the offseason, we got it. When, I mean, the right side of the line, it's honest. But then what that turns into is Jared's going to criticize Rand about everything. And so here he is wearing a green shirt, which I don't care about. And you're like, go criticize him, Jared. No, it was fine. And his interview in the booth was fine. And I didn't think it was incredibly insightful, but it's not supposed to be. Like, he's just supposed to get through it so the fans can say, yeah, they're excited for the season. And he did. It was good. It was better than Brinker's interview last week where I walked away saying, so what the hell does Brinker do? But it drives me crazy because when it comes to criticizing the Titans and criticizing Rand and the Brinker situation and everything, I feel like I'm being worked like I'm a referee. And what I mean by that is I think it's like, oh, Jared just criticizes every single thing that Rand Carthon does, period, this, that. So then it makes me not want to criticize because I don't want to have to deal with people getting their panties in a wad every time I do. And then he goes out there and says, we checked off everything on offense. So now I'm the bad guy. So I only criticize when there's something worth criticizing, and this green shirt is not it. In fact, I didn't even think it looked like, I don't think it looked bad at all. Now, I'm not the person to give out fashion advice here on the radio because, Ian, I'm not even really allowed to buy my own clothes anymore.
Oh, we've gotten that far, huh?
I mean, it's, just trying to make everybody happy.
Sure.
We're just trying to get by. So maybe I'm not one to give fashion advice, but like, I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was bad at all.
I don't have good sense of fashion myself, so.
And then the other thing too is, like, I'm not going to compare this to Floyd, who would have worn a 3-piece suit out there, because we're in a different era. You know, Floyd shined his shoes every Sunday. He'd go in his closet and shine his shoes.
I almost got a car wash today for Floyd, but
After I told you that
he washes his car every week.
he washed his car every week.
Yeah, I almost
I
got
did get
one
a car
today,
wash on Saturday. So, and when I bought a nicer car, I got a membership to get my car washed. So it's like, I think it's $12 for like a regular wash. Now I'm paying $19 for a month, to go unlimited. So I feel like it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So I just go get my car washed whenever I'm by the car wash or when it needs a car wash. But yeah, it's a different era. And I don't think there's a lot of GMs. I could be wrong about this. I don't think there's a lot of GMs in today's game that are wearing, 3-piece suits on the sidelines. Rand's sweater was fine. I cannot agree. I cannot believe if Robbie and Joe said it. I cannot believe that Robbie and Joe were like, oh, Jared's going to complain about this. Because they know. Like, they know that whenever I criticize Rand, people get mad. And they're like, you hate Rand. I'm like, he just said the ball didn't bounce their way. I feel like a referee who they're trying to work. You go to the referee every time and you say, your strike zone's too tight. Your strike zone's too tight. Your strike zone. As a human, it's hard, even though you might get mad at the manager yelling from the dugout. It's hard not to sit there and say, well, I don't want to have to deal with this guy bitching at me all day. So I'm going to ball 2. And I'm not worked like a referee. Will not happen. Some of the text line is now pretty funny.
Starting to admit that they don't buy their own clothes as well.
No, just pretty funny in the regards of just the whole, God, this is so stupid. Somebody said that there was a Facebook post about it and TD had to get involved. So this is the first I'm hearing.
Watch out on Facebook.
Of Sweatergate. Ben says people were asking TD about it on Facebook. Enough people care that it's become a topic. You've got to be kidding me. And look, if I think it's time to criticize because of the way somebody's dressed, I'll do it even though I'm not allowed to buy my own clothes. I will do it because I don't know if you guys remember, but the first time that DeAndre Hopkins called me a racist was because of what Deshaun Watson wore.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
He's out there wearing a hoodie and pajama pants out there on the sidelines of the national championship game. And so if I don't like something, me, I'll say it. But the green sweatshirt, I don't have a problem with it at all. Now, if he was wearing assless chaps with the green sweatshirt, we'd have a problem.
Or a purse.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. If Rand Carthon carried a purse, oh, goodness gracious, that would be something. One texter says, you owe Tavondre Sweat an apology. For what? For wondering if it was a reach at 38 when everybody told us it was a reach? How about we play some real football games first? I love what I saw out of Sweat. I like what I saw out of Sweat yesterday. I like what I've seen out of Sweat in practice. And I do think there's a chance that we will look back on this pick and we will say, you know what? Everybody got it wrong and they got it right. They were right to take on the risk even after he got the DWI. They were right to take on the risk that the other teams weren't willing to take. By the way, so was Kansas City when they drafted Tyreek Hill. A lot of teams took Tyreek off the board. Granted, it is nothing like what Tyreek did to get himself taken off the board, but that's just how this works. Honey Badger, people were nervous about him. So far, so good for Sweat. Let's see him do it in real games, though, before it's like, Jared, get up there and say they were right and you were wrong. And let's play some real games. No, that's like after a week of practice, Chris Sanders went out to the Alumni Day practice. You know I love Chris. By the way, did you see my little joke on Twitter about Chris yesterday, Ian?
I think I missed it. No.
Jaquan Jackson, that reverse they ran for him.
Oh boy, starting a new record.
I said they run plays like that, he might catch Chris Sanders for the NFL record for the least amount of rushing yards in NFL history.
Uncalled for.
But after, I know, I sent it to him and Derek. So, but after after like the first practice Chris went to, he was like, no red flags on Sweat. I'm like, wait a minute, what? No, it's been one practice. So let's play some real games first. And then if Sweat is doing this against real players in real games and I'll be the first to say, I love the big boy. But I did like the pick, but then just everybody else said, oh, no, this is terrible. This is bad. This is this. This is that. Then it's a whole different. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025 here on our program. More of your phones on a Titans Monday. I have an observation, and I'm not sure that it's real, but I mean, it's a real observation. Like it's an opinion that I have. And I'm not sure that it's really our land to farm, but I do want to hit on that. And so we'll do it next. First, though, I want to talk about Window Nation. I love Window Nation. In fact, just like I, have people using Hiller, I love telling people about Window Nation. I literally have the contact info so that when somebody texts me and they're like, who's your person at Window Nation? I'm like, here, talk to them right now. 866-90Nation, windownation.com. I'm like, talk to them right now. They will take great care of you. And I know this. And I know there's a lot of window companies out there trying to earn your business. They all have great deals, but I don't know if you can trust the quality or if you can trust the customer service that I know you will get from Window Nation. And Window Nation does have a great deal celebrating their anniversary here in August. Buy 2 windows, you'll get 2 windows free. And there is no limit on how much you could save. Plus, you'll get a $250 credit, and you pay nothing for 24 months. Again, buy 2 windows, get 2 free, plus $250, pay nothing for 24 months. Hurry because the sale does end August 31st. So schedule a fast in-home estimate at 866-90Nation or at windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation, windownation.com.
Rattler with a talent that looks better than a 5th-round pick.
Yep.
Played really well at Oklahoma, got started there, then transferred to South Carolina. Inconsistent, though, in college. He had the flashes of great talent, and then the spells where he looked more like an undrafted free agent than a draft pick.
Yeah, he really did. Up and down. Did initial, terrific at Oklahoma, and then Caleb Williams showed up.
Yeah.
Transferred to South Carolina, got better and better as time went on there. Ended up going in the 5th round, has a chance to be their backup. Let's see if Tennessee can shut them down here on this big 3rd down. See how aggressive Denard Wilson wants to be. Let's see if the coverage is going to be on the outside.
3rd and 12, they drop 7. Charles Rattler from the pocket fires into the end zone. And that's hauled in. The perfect connection there. Touchdown Tennessee, or touchdown New Orleans. Equanimous St. Brown brings that one in.
Okay, so the New Orleans Saints are not my team. It's not my land to farm. But was anybody else impressed with Spencer Rattler last night? Like, I think my knowledge of Spencer Rattler is he was the chosen one. And Caleb Williams was his backup. And Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma was supposed to be the guy. He wasn't the guy that... So I think the way it went was Baker was the quarterback. Then Kyler Murray replaced Baker. Then Jalen Hurts replaced Kyler. And then Rattler was supposed to be the next guy. Ian, I think I have my Oklahoma quarterback timeline down correctly.
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
And then when Rattler was supposed to be the guy and he wasn't, they switched him out for Caleb Williams and Caleb became the guy. And then Spencer Rattler transfers to South Carolina, and he's good, but he's not very good. And he loses games they shouldn't lose, but they do pull some games out that nobody expects them to pull out. And maybe because the Titans already had a young quarterback on the team, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the quarterback class outside of the 5 or 6 guys that were going to go in the 1st round. And then I saw Spencer Rattler out there yesterday, and I mean, that touchdown he threw in the corner of the end zone right there, that was a beautiful pass. And I'm not much of a Jake Haener person in terms of my knowledge about him either. But, I mean, Rattler looked okay. I got to give him credit. Now, I'm not one of these bozos that's like, hey, he's going to be better than Derek Carr. Because I think that's probably a little bit of a stretch. But I remember watching the preseason and seeing Billy Volek and Mark Bulger duel it out in the 4th quarter of a preseason game and thinking, are these guys really that bad? Only to find Mark Bulger starting in the NFL and Billy Volek, having the opportunity that he had with the Titans. I didn't think old Spencer Rattler was that bad. Now, again, do I think that he's a Joe Montana? Probably not. But I liked what I saw. Again, it's their land, not mine. And what happens, I know this ain't New Orleans radio talking about the Saints, but I did see some good things out of Spencer Rattler. I mean, I watched the game, so okay. This guy, he doesn't look bad. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. One texter says Spencer Rattler will be forgotten about in 2 years. Maybe. But, I mean, 2 years ago, Zach Wilson was the number 2 pick in the draft. I guess that was 3 years ago, but 2 seasons for Zach Wilson, and he was the number 2 pick in the draft. Mac Jones, I think, had the highest passer rating of the preseason in the NFL. But he's forgotten about. Justin Fields is going to lose out to Russell Wilson. I want everybody to think about that. Russell Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So come on now. Sit there and tell me about, he'll be forgotten. Maybe. And again, I don't care. I'm not a Saints fan. Not sitting here being like, all right, here's what the Saints need to do. And I think the Saints need to so on and so forth. One texter says, remember the way he played against the Vols? Yeah, that was the flipping burgers game. Dabo's like, back when Dabo took phone calls on his coach's show. Did you see that, Ian? Dabo, because he got into it with a caller last year, is no longer going to take calls on his coach's show?
No, I didn't see that.
What a freaking crybaby. I have lost all respect for Dabo Swinney.
Yeah,
not that I really ever had any.
Not fair for the fans there.
But this idea of like, I'm a $10 million football coach, but I'm also a dumbass and I can't control myself. So instead of me being the grown-up and having to take responsibility for my actions and answer phone calls politely while I'm making $10 million, we're just going to not have phone calls. Don't get me started on that. Like a Joe Rexroad rant segment, although a real rant, not just gushing about high school football, for whatever that's worth. One texter into the text line says, I absolutely loved the offense. I thought it was fabulous the way they moved the football, and I thought that it was fabulous the way they used all of the different players and getting everybody involved. Agreed. And that is the one thing that I look at Chicago. Chicago's going to watch this tape. They're going to watch Bengals tape. They're going to watch last year's Titans tape because of the personnel, and they're going to watch the preseason tape probably pretty extensively. And if you are a Titan fan, you have an idea about, okay, they want to get the ball to this guy, they want to get the ball to that guy, they want to get the ball. But if you're just parachuting in and you're setting up a game plan for a week, you're going to try to figure out what it is they want to do. Because right now, if I'm the coach, the offensive game plan going to Chicago is going to be getting the ball to Tony Pollard and short passes to Tyler Boyd and getting him involved. And we got to see how DeAndre is. And maybe you take a deep shot or two to Ridley. I don't know. But I mean, I'm getting Tony Pollard to football. But I don't want the Bears to know that. So everybody gets a touch. Everybody gets a pass. Everybody except, I don't think Chig did anything yesterday, but everybody gets something. And now Chicago's going to be sitting there thinking, hey, are they going to try to air the ball out and throw it 45 times? Or are they, I mean, surely they're not going to be the ground and pound Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry. And then I think they would be shocked when, again, if I'm the coach, to go into Chicago and we're turning around, handing the ball to Tony Pollard 15, 20 times a game. One texter in the text line says, see, this is the stuff that drives me crazy. One texter says, didn't Jared say a couple of weeks ago that the running back sucked since Derrick Henry was traded? It sure sounded like Jared said that. Ian, have I ever said that the running backs on this football team suck?
I don't think you've said that in particular. Something to the effect of, I don't know if you can get better running the ball losing Derrick Henry.
Well, I don't think you get better as a team by not having Derrick Henry on.
Something like that, yeah.
But I've been saying for weeks this team needs to run the football. And I've been saying for weeks when it comes to Pollard, now I think Pollard's the number one back. But I don't like the resources of using a third-round draft choice on a running back and then using $8 million on a running back. I'd like to use one of those things on a running back, not two of them. But the running backs are probably the players that I feel the most safe about on offense. The running backs and Tyler Boyd. I don't know how we could feel safe about the quarterback. Certainly don't feel safe about the offensive line, even though they did do well yesterday. I mean, you got to give them credit. Even though it was the Saints backups, you got to give them credit. They did do well. But this idea that like Jared says the running backs suck, I think the running backs are the best players on offense. And I've been saying for weeks at practice, this team needs to be a running team. And I know you guys are like, no, we want to be the new era of football. We don't want to. Let him grow into that. Let him be a 18 pass a game guy at first and let him work into that. But right now, I mean, I want to run the ball. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program. And there is one guy in particular who I am telling you right now, he is not getting cut. I do not care how much this triggers some of you. I also do not think that this is earth-shattering or game-changing or indicative of anything except for the situation they're in. But some people are going to get mad about it. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios on a Titans Monday. So I've seen some of this in the text line, and I got to tell you, I was triggered this morning taking my puppy to dog daycare today. I was triggered, Ian, by the Robbie and Rex Road program.
What'd they do this time?
They were discussing the argument for cutting Malik Willis. Now, I don't know how many discussions we're going to have about Malik Willis after this week. Hopefully, and I mean this with all due respect, because Malik's gotten better, zero. That we do not have a lot of Malik Willis chat during the season. That is the hope, that is the goal, that is the expectation. But this is training camp in the preseason, and this is where those guys play, and this is where we get down to the 53-man roster, and this is where we all see the backup quarterbacks. Hell, we just talked about the Saints' backup quarterback in the last segment. But I texted Robbie this today, and I mean this with complete and total certainty. They are not going to cut Malik Willis. It's not going to happen. And to be completely honest with you, I don't actually think there is a good argument for cutting Malik Willis unless there is a third quarterback on the market who Brian Callahan is wetting his pants over. Like the one guy that Brian Callahan said, one day I'd love to have this guy be our backup quarterback. Oh my God, he really got released. Go get him. That's the only reason that I see Malik Willis getting cut. That's the only reason that I think you would even have an argument to cut Malik Willis. If your argument for cutting Malik Willis is, well, he sucks, even that doesn't necessarily compute because you're not taking into account the fact that when we're talking about guy number 51, 52, 53, they all suck. So there's no difference there. So here's the argument against cutting Malik, which again, I don't think that they're going to cut him, and I don't think that I have to make this argument. I think that they probably know it in the Titans facility. They're probably not even talking about it, to be honest. The first reason is Malik has improved. I mean, there's no way, I think, even if you were the biggest Malik Willis hater, that you could watch what he's done this preseason and not say without just beyond the shadow of a doubt that Malik has improved. He started a preseason game last year against Minnesota where he played the entire game and he didn't even throw for 100 yards. Malik, that throw he made to Bryce Oliver in the end zone for a touchdown, that's the best throw I've seen Malik make as a Titan. This isn't the Malik Willis who threw the ball away on fourth down in joint practice against the Arizona Cardinals. So while, again, the improvement that he's made is probably not the improvement of a number 2 quarterback, and it's certainly not the improvement to number 1 quarterback, I think it's a fair improvement to say, okay, that can be number 3. Number 2, you don't cut Malik Willis because his money is guaranteed. And they have a budget. Like, I know on game day, period. I knew that there were some people that thought that there was a rule out there that no, they've changed the rule. You can elevate a guy off the practice squad. Even if they had changed the rule, which they didn't, but even if they had changed the rule about the practice squad, you still can only elevate a guy, I think, 2 or 3 times during the season. Well, Malik's going to be your third quarterback every single game because he'll be inactive. So you still get 48 to the game, but you're getting a 49th player. The only way the third quarterback gets in the game is if the first two quarterbacks get hurt. Then if one of the two quarterbacks is able to come back in the game, the third quarterback then has to exit the game. Now, if the first two quarterbacks get hurt, I can't think of somebody that I'd rather have playing quarterback that is in the organization right now that has guaranteed money than Malik Willis. Oh, but Jared, it doesn't happen very often that both quarterbacks get hurt. And you want to be in the position San Francisco was in? That's the reason this rule exists. And if it happens again, by the way, in a similar fashion to San Francisco, if it's a Super Bowl and one team doesn't have a quarterback, or it's a conference championship game and one team doesn't have a quarterback, the NFL is going to make a third quarterback mandatory. But the entire way to take advantage of the rule is you have to have a third quarterback. Now, if Malik was an undrafted free agent and he was trying out for the team and he wasn't any good at all, like if Malik was an undrafted free agent and he was what he was 2 years ago, then I'd say cut him. Then I would say cut him and fine, go ahead with the 53 guys. But he's not. He's got guaranteed money. He's been in the system the entire year since Brian Callahan's shown up. By all accounts, it sounds like he's done everything they've asked him to do. He certainly has improved, and he doesn't count against your 50 or your 48 on game day. It makes no sense to cut Malik. The only argument that exists for cutting Malik, and I have done 4 53-man rosters, and we will have our final 53-man roster today at 5:30. But the only argument that exists for cutting Malik Willis is if there is somebody that you have to keep and you've already got 52 guys. And I hate to say it, but that player does not exist on the Titans. I'll just tell you right now, when I put the locks, like guys that they're making the team, period, I had 7 open spots. And that was before Chance Campbell, before they announced that Chance Campbell was out for the year. And he was a lock to make the team. So when it comes to the Titans, and it comes to, oh no, Jared, we cannot afford to lose this guy, that guy doesn't exist. The back end of the team, the final, after you get to past 46, the final 7 or 8 guys are all practice squad level players. Whether it is Caleb Murphy or Matthew Jackson or Mason Kinsey or Jalen Duncan or John Ojukwu or Julius Chestnut or whomever, they're all practice squad guys. Now, if you had 52 guys you loved and there was a 53rd guy, if David Martin Robinson were the 53rd guy and he's not, then I'd say, okay, now we got to have a talk. But he's not. Like, it is not. Again, I did all the locks on the roster, and I had 8 open spots when you factor in Chance Campbell. And I promise you, you can get any one of these guys off of somebody's practice squad. They'll be available, when they get, here you go. Rupchich, Duncan, Christian, Levin, Kieris Jackson, Kinsey, Haskins, Chestnut, Otis Reese, Matthew Jackson, Caleb Murphy, Shane Ray, Quentin Bohanna, Abdullah Anderson, Bryce Oliver, Caleb Farley, Trey Avery, and Luke Gifford. You can get any one of those guys off of somebody else's practice squad during the season. You can probably get all of those guys through to your practice squad. So there's no reason to cut Malik Willis. As much as it's like, well, I don't think I need a third quarterback. Well, okay, but you're going to have 48 active players out of your 53, and I'm going to get 49 active players out of my 53. It's an extra spot, and the money is already guaranteed, and he has shown improvement. They are not cutting Malik Willis. Period. Even if you don't like Malik Willis, and I don't love Malik Willis, but even if you don't like Malik Willis, they are not cutting Malik. End of story. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I'm sure there are players like, oh, no, we got to keep him. We got to keep him. We cannot afford to cut this guy, and we cannot. I'll tell you who's a lock to make this team. We'll get
Crowd comes alive, 3rd and 11. Extra man comes, 5-man rush. Willis to the end zone, right on the money. Touchdown, Titans. Bryce Oliver, undrafted rookie out of Youngstown State.
He has played well during camp and in his opportunities out on the field. I think he's got a logjam ahead of him at wide receiver, but he's put some really nice tape out there. And how about this ball from Malik Willis, Paul?
Well,
put it right over the shoulder of the defensive back. And how about the concentration and fierceness of Oliver? So let's check out the offensive line and see what they give him. Good, they take care of business right there. Plenty of space to step up and throw it. And the concentration and the determination by Oliver to make sure the ball's not taken away.
There you go. That's the best throw Malik Willis has ever made as a Titan quarterback. Apparently, somebody who I would say Ian would know says that Malik Willis being a 3rd-round pick is not the same as other draft picks like in the 1st round. So for 1st-round picks, they have all 4 guaranteed years. But the 3rd-round picks, I believe it's just the 1st year and a signing bonus that's guaranteed. So Malik's money would not be guaranteed. So at least there's that. If they cut Malik, the $2.5 million, they would not be flushing down the toilet.
Okay.
Again,
that's, if they do decide to, then at least we can't get mad about that.
At least we can't get mad about that. So the Titans have made their first initial wave of cuts. Again, I put together a 53-man roster today. I had 7 open spots at 9 a.m. this morning. Brian Callahan in his noon press conference said Chance Campbell's out for the year, make it 8. After I got past the 46 guys, I had a list of guys who I don't consider to be locks on the Titans or guys I could live without. Rupchich, Duncan, Christian, Levin, Kieris Jackson, Kinsey, Haskins, Chestnut, Reese, Jackson, Murphy, Ray, Bohanna, Abdullah Anderson, Bryce Oliver, Caleb Farley, Trey Avery, and Luke Gifford. So that's kind of that grouping there. The Titans have released 9 dudes, not one of them off that list. Brian Dooley, Tay Gowan, Michael Jones, whoever the hell that is, Thomas Rush, Sam Schnee, Steven Stylianos, Ty Zentner, JoJo Doman, and Trayshawn Harrison. So that tells you how many guys, like, they're all pro football players. They're all better than me, but they're not really that good. You're not going to miss them. You can get them anywhere. It's fine. It's okay. Here are the guys who are making the team unequivocally. Levis and Rudolph, and I put Willis on there, but I guess you guys want to complain about it. But Levis, Rudolph, and Willis. Pollard and Spears. Hopkins, Burks, Ridley, Boyd, NWI, and Jackson. Okonkwo, Wiley, Vanette, and Martin Robinson. Latham, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Radens, PT, and Brunskill. Simmons, Sweat, Coburn, and Joseph Day. Key, Landry, Jalen Harrell, Rashad Weaver, who I don't even know what he does anymore, but him. Kenneth Murray, Jack Gibbons, James Williams going to make the team. I don't know what the deal with this Cedric Gray is. I mean, today, Brian Callahan said that he's got a nerve injury and they don't know when he's going to be better. Sounds like you stick that guy on IR. Sneed, Awuzie, McCreary, Brownlee, and Gabe Judy Lolly. Hooker, Diggs, Adams, and Molden. Folk, Stonehouse, and Cox. That's 46. Whoever else you put in there, like, as the GM would say, Ian, I got the 46 guys that belong in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. You can have the rest.
You can have the rest. You want to put Haskins in there over Chestnut? Fine. You want to put Chestnut in there over Haskins? Whatever. You ain't losing anything with whatever call you make. So it would make no sense to cut Malik. It would make zero, in my opinion. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. When Callahan mentioned players putting a performance on tape like he did for Malik and the kicker after the second preseason game, it felt like he means it for other teams. I keep trying to understand, if they don't keep Malik Willis and they go get another quarterback, fine. But if they don't keep Malik Willis and they just roll with 53 on the roster, then I think they're morons. Because I know there's not 53 guys worth keeping on this team. And again, the third quarterback is a free player. He's free. You can only have 48 active players. If you go with 2 quarterbacks and both of them get hurt, now what are you going to do? That doesn't make any sense to me. One texter says, Willis pulled out the victory for the Titans on Sunday, so at least he can win there. Yeah, hey, how about that, by the way, for Malik? Not only did he have that beautiful touchdown throw to Bryce Oliver, but they put the ball in his hands in the 2-minute drill last week. They took him out of the game to put Mason Rudolph in the game at the end of the preseason. They put him in there, which I did not like. But they let Malik roll with it this time, and Malik scored a touchdown. And because of that, good enough. Caleb says, why haven't the Titans traded for Ernest Jones yet? So I've been seeing on Twitter that Ernest Jones is available. I guess he's an inside backer for the Rams. And I guess it was put out there over the weekend that the Rams had given Ernest Jones permission to go seek a trade. And then Ernest Jones said, I haven't requested a trade. And I'm sorry, but 2 thoughts here. But the first is, who the hell is Ernest Jones? Like, is this a guy who I'm supposed to know? I saw it's like he was their leading tackler last year. I'm like, beats the hell out of me because I never heard of this guy. So I don't know if I'm like, oh, I have to go get him or not. I don't know anything about him. Kyle's been waiting patiently. He's up next here on the program. Kyle, thank you for waiting. Kyle, go ahead.
Hey, guys. Yeah, it's a real bummer what happened to Chance Campbell, man. He was turning into a fan favorite. But a few months ago, after we drafted James Williams, I called in and said that he reminds me of Keith Bullock and Telvin Smith. Well, so far, a rookie transferring from safety or linebacker, I've been pretty impressed with what he said. And some redneck called in after I said that and had to pull over and said that was the dumbest thing he's ever heard. So how do you like me now, redneck? But anyways, Caleb Farley, you say we're going to keep Malik Willis because it's guaranteed. Do you think we're going to keep Caleb Farley because his money's guaranteed?
Well, again, I've been told that Willis's money might not be guaranteed. Farley's money is guaranteed. We'll get to Farley.
But
I mean, we'll get to Farley in a second, but I will say that I do think there's a discussion to be had there.
would you agree? Would you agree though that James Williams is going to step in for Chance Campbell since he's been busting heads out there?
Do I believe that James Williams is going to step in and be a backup inside linebacker who might play special teams and might not be active on game day?
Oh, he's going to be active out there
Yes.
on game day. He's going to be a backup linebacker too. So what if K9 goes down? He'd be perfect to plug in for him. Just go see ball, get
here's
ball.
the thing about most of these guys, and I appreciate your call, Kyle. Here's the thing about most of these guys. If somebody goes down, they're not the perfect guy to plug in. Like, I'm just telling you, if somebody goes down and it's like, well, thank God we've got Bryce Oliver. Guys, Bryce Oliver ain't DeAndre Hopkins. The only guy who you did not know of before the start of training camp who legitimately fits in that mold of if somebody goes down, it's not that big of a deal, to me is Martin Robinson. And I think that's more of a reflection of what I think of Okonkwo and Wiley and the inevitability that Wiley's going to get hurt, because that's what Wiley does, is Wiley gets hurt. He's the one guy who, hey, if you've got to play Martin Robinson, it's not the end of the world, because, again, the other guys kind of stink. Outside of that, I mean, everybody else who is not a what I would call varsity player, everybody else is a massive step back. If you've got to play John Ojukwu at left tackle, it is a massive step back than J.C. Latham. Let's go to Mark, who's up next here on the program. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Jared, I agree. It makes perfect sense to keep Malik Willis. He had a great game. He's actually won an NFL game before, and he's well-versed in the transition of the system.
He sucked in that Texan game he won. Let's not give him credit for that. He stunk. So I'm not going to sit there and say, well, he did win that one Texan game where they threw 5 passes. No. Let's not make up reasons to keep Malik. Mark, thank you for calling. Let's not make this more than what it is. You get 3 quarterbacks. The third is inactive. It's a bonus the NFL gives you. And if you don't want to take it, that's on you. And I want to take the bonus that the NFL is willing to give. That's like a couple years ago. There were, I think I can tell this story, Ian, because I think everybody involved is gone. So I can tell that story, right?
Okay, sure.
So a couple years ago, Ryan Porth called me when he was our program director. And I even think that he said, don't tell anybody about this. But I think, we had a different general manager at the time. We had a different program director. And Porth wanted me to work on like 2 holidays, being like, hey, can you work this day and can you work that day? And I say, yeah. I said, I work those days. I don't mind working holidays during the football season because we have football to talk about. And then, I'd rather take a day off in July. No disrespect to July, whatever. But I'd rather take a day off then than take the day off when, we've got like Black Friday, for instance. I'm always on the air on Black Friday because we have, football on Thursday. We got a football game coming up. We got all kinds of stuff. And Porth told me he wanted to give me a half a comp day to work a show. And I said, wait a minute, what? A half a day? He's like, yeah, well, one show's 4 hours and, the work day's 8 hours. And I said, no. I was like, no, I will work those shows because a show is not just 4 hours. I mean, again, I was up at 8 a.m. going over the 53-man roster as to who's going to make the team. I said, no, I am not going to get half of a comp day or a show off to do a full show. Why would I do that? I mean, if you're going to give me the day to work Black Friday, and you're going to give me the day I can take it in June and July, I'm going to do that every time. But not if you're going to give me half a day. Well, when it comes to what the NFL is offering teams, it's you get an extra player, period. You get an extra player, and you get an extra insurance policy when it comes to Malik. So why not take it? The only reason not to take it is if there is somebody out there you'd rather have who's better, which I don't know is going to be out there, or if you're like, oh, no, we can't afford to lose Trey Avery. And let me say this. You can afford to lose Trey Avery. No disrespect. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025 on the program. Plus, Kyle did ask about Caleb Farley. That one is a little hairier. But did you see what he did yesterday? We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 of the game.
Titans general manager Rand Carthon continues to spend his third quarter in the broadcast booth. So where are you with this process of getting this roster right now down to that number of 53?
Well, we've been locked in a room, the past 3 or 4 days, looking at all the potential guys that could come free. And our staff, helmet on.
That's good coverage right there. If you're going to kick it, you got to kick it from inside the 30, right?
How about that? Caleb Farley with the play.
Nice.
How about that? He's right. Caleb Farley took a dude's head off on the kickoff. I was stunned. I mean, we haven't seen Caleb Farley do anything for 3 years. Everybody who was associated with why they picked Caleb Farley's been fired. And Caleb Farley shot up there on that kickoff, and they used to have a segment on Monday Night Countdown on ESPN called Jacked Up. This was before concussions were a thing. Well, I mean, concussions were always a thing, but before they cared about them. And so ESPN used to have a session where all the guys would sit around the desk. I don't even know, by the way, who's on that show anymore. But they used to have all the guys sit around the desk, Tom Jackson and Chris Carter and all of them. And they'd say, okay, take us through the big hits of a Sunday. And they'd go to some random Carolina Panther Cleveland Browns game. And Tom Jackson said, okay, it's the Carolina Panthers and the Cleveland Browns. Third down in the third quarter. Jake Delhomme, he goes over the top for Musa Muhammad. Oh, not today. The safety came in there, Johnny Johnson, and he lowered the boom. Musa Muhammad, he got jacked up. And everybody would scream jacked up when they did it. Caleb Farley yesterday, Ian, with that guy out there, he got jacked up. It was. So I got to say this about Farley. When it comes down to the 52nd, 53rd spot on the team, unless you give a rat's ass about Caleb Murphy, and I don't, Farley is a questionable decision. I think it's hilarious, too, by the way, that if Farley did this his rookie year, people would be like, oh, see, Jared, that's why we took him even with the back surgery. You see, he's going to be awesome. Oh, my God. Instead, because the fan base has already gotten over their disappointment with Farley, it's like, oh, well, okay. But if I was running the team, I would be thinking very seriously about keeping Caleb Farley. I looked it up this morning. He makes $2.5 million in guaranteed money, and that money is there regardless because he was the 21st pick in the draft, then first-round picks, their contracts are fully guaranteed. And he did show you a little something yesterday on special teams. So when it comes to Farley, and Kyle asked him, what do you think about Farley? At the cornerback position, I've got 6 locks. Snead, Awuzie, McCreary, Brownlee, and Judy Lally. Excuse me, that's 5. I've got 5 locks. The next question has to be, if you go into a game or if you sustain an injury, are you afraid that you wouldn't be able to get Trey Avery through to the practice squad or somebody else? And I'm convinced there are guys, no disrespect to Trey Avery, I'm convinced there are guys on other practice squads that if you were to have an injury at the corner position, that guy, Avery, whoever's the 6th corner, that guy wouldn't even be active on game day because the Titans would go into the game with their 5 active corners, and then they would feel good about the fact that if they have to put Elijah Molden out there, they can. So, they wouldn't activate a Trey Avery or they wouldn't activate that extra guy. So, if you're thinking about, okay, who do we keep, Avery or Farley? I've never seen Trey Avery rock somebody like that on special teams. And I do think there's something to be said for everything that Caleb Farley has been through. Not to sit here and say it is a sentimental competition because it is not. But I think there is something to be said for the fact that, hey, Farley's been through the ringer every way imaginable, and he's earned a spot on this team. And besides, whoever we cut in order to keep, we can just put on our practice squad and call them up, or after another injury somewhere else, whatever. But I think I'd be leaning towards keeping Farley. Again, this is a 53rd man discussion. Martin Robinson is not a 53rd man discussion. I don't even think Malik is a 53rd man discussion. But this is it the end of the world if you cut Matthew Jackson in order to keep Farley? How hard would it be? So I think there's a chance Farley's going to make the team. 615-737-1025. Glenn from Greenbrier asks on the Malik Willis front, wouldn't it make more sense to cut Malik Willis because you could bring him up in a new emergency QB roster? I don't know what that means, but I think I know what that means. So there had been talk this offseason about changing the third quarterback rule. The third quarterback rule after the NFC title game in 2022 for the 2023 season was if you have a third quarterback on your active roster, he does not count against your active 48. I'm sorry, I screwed that up there right there. He has to be on the 53, but he does not count against the active 48. So you can get him to the game, and he doesn't count. So when it comes to Malik, there was a report that came out this offseason that the NFL was considering doing away with that and saying, no, you can call a guy up off the practice squad. But the NFL never actually changed the rule. The rule is you have to be on the active roster. So again, to me, it doesn't make sense to call Malik up in case you have an emergency. And again, the point of the emergency would then be that he'd have to be active every game day. The emergency is that you go into the game with Levis and Rudolph healthy, and for whatever reason, they're not healthy. They break an ankle, tear an ACL, and now it's Malik. And if you don't have Malik, then you can't just say, hey, Malik, come out of section 214. We need you out here on the field on 3rd and 11. You can't do that. This is not the NHL where you can actually do that. In the NHL, if both goalies get hurt, the Predators could call Chris Mason down from the booth to get in the net. And let me just make this abundantly clear while I have your attention. Ian,
yes.
If the Predators do have 2 goalie injuries and they don't make Chris Mason the goalie and they lose, I will criticize them for not putting Chris Mason in there. Because I cannot imagine that there's anybody in the stadium, and you can literally pick anybody.
Well, they have the E-Bug, the emergency backup goalie.
Right. It's some guy who's like a, dentist, and he shows up at 7:00 and sits in section 114 or whatever and cheers for the team.
Are you going to take C-Mace out of the booth?
Yes.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yes. It could be anybody in the stadium.
That'd be fun.
Didn't the Florida Panthers put their assistant general manager in that like a couple of years ago? And he won a shootout?
I don't remember that. It's possible.
I think so. So again, but you can't do that in football. Josh from White House says, Trey Avery is kind of a bum, and I'm tired of seeing him on the Titans. Respect to him as a guy, but it's time to move on.
Most of the players seem like they've gotten better, maybe except for Trey Avery.
Trey Avery is who he is, guys. But the truth is, Trey Avery is the definition of your number one ability in the NFL is availability. Because he can't cover, can't tackle, and he doesn't intercept the pass. But every year, the Titans run through 13 corners, and the one guy who is consistently healthy is Avery. He's the one guy. One texter says, don't understand how anyone can say Brownlee is a lock. He got beat every time the ball came his way. I mean, every time. Number one, I don't believe that to be true. And number two, he was taken in the 5th round, and he hasn't stunk. He's a lock. As simple as that. He's a lock. Somebody says, if you want to keep Willis, should they keep Narvison? No. I mean, guys, see, kicking's been so bad around here that all of a sudden it's like people don't pay attention to anything. Did you see the Florida State kicker on Saturday? Just drill a 59er. I mean, like, wasn't even trying and just smoked it and drilled a 52-yarder. And he's a sophomore in college. That's where the game's going. That's why when the Titans had Randy Bullock, who was no sure thing from 48 yards plus, I'm like, this is not 2022 NFL football. Because in today's game, you can literally just bang the ball from 58 yards. It happens. So the idea that Narvison makes one 59-yard kick and now it's like, oh, God, we got to keep him. No. Narvison, and I was talking to TD about this. I don't know if it was on the air or off the air, but I was talking to TD about it. And TD was like, yeah, I mean, you were there out of practice. He was missing kicks from 32 and 46. And I mean, he was missing a lot of kicks. So no, they're not keeping Narvison. 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 here on the program. One texter says, I wish the NFL would go to a 54-man roster and make it mandatory for a third quarterback, keep the 48 dressed with the 49th being the inactive quarterback, and would eliminate this should we keep guy A over guy B. They are not going to allow a 54th member of the active roster. Ian, do you want to know why they will not add a 54th man to the roster?
Why is that?
Because they'd have to pay him. And they don't want to do that. So they're not going to add a 54th man. And Brian Callahan even said basically what I just told you. He basically said that today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I know it is Titans Monday, but I do have a thought. I do have a thought that I want to get to about the college over the weekend. And I'm not going to lie to you. I stole somebody's take, and we'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Aiden Burr has a chance to be the hero. 44 yards away to do it. And the Yellow Jackets did it. Upset in hand. They found themselves a pot of gold at the end of their Irish rainbow. Number 10, Florida State goes down in Dublin.
There you go. Who watched on Saturday? Ian, did you watch?
The very end I saw when I was eating lunch at an establishment.
So I watched. I woke up. I watched game day. I watched the beginning of the game. Nick Saban, by the way, is fabulous on game day. Not that I think that anybody's surprised by that.
Yeah, that's what the scuttlebutt is, huh?
Oh, Saban was excellent. But, and I don't think this is like Tony Romo, where, okay, now Saban's going to get lazy and not try to be as good anymore. I mean, I think Saban is going to prepare every week, all right, for the TV broadcast. All right, we're going to try to get better. I was very excited about that. But I watched a game, and I went into this thinking, okay, this is like a ceremonial game. This is the second year in a row that I have been on Sirius XM on Mad Dog Sports Radio as soon as that week 0 opening kickoff game ends, to react to it. And last year was Notre Dame Navy, and there was nothing that happened in Notre Dame Navy. I mean, nothing that happened that was worth talking about. And I just assumed because Florida State is Florida State and number 10 in the country and everything else, I just assumed that Florida State was probably going to blow out Georgia Tech. But because I was on right after it, I had to be prepared. And I kept watching this game, and I'm like, this is a good game. And then Florida State scored in the fourth quarter, and I thought, oh, the season opener, we might have some overtime. Like, this might be, and credit to Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech took the football and ran it right down Florida State's rear end, and Florida State couldn't stop it, and Georgia Tech kicked the field goal, and they won the game, and Florida State, who won every game last year and still didn't make the playoff, is still eligible to make the playoff this year if they win every game the rest of the way, because we now have a 12-team playoff. But it was a great game. And when the ball went through the upright, I was watching the game on TV, and it went through the upright, and I thought, wow, what a great first college football game of the year. A great game. And then I remembered what Chad Withrow said on our program on Friday. And he said there needs to be 2 games. And as I watched the ball go through the upright, I thought to myself, I'm not done with football today. I want another football game. Like, give me another football game. I need another one. It was so bad that I actually, while I was on Sirius, I had on I don't even remember who played, Montana State and New Mexico. I had that game on. And the only thing I could tell you about either school is what state they're located in, and that is with the assumption that Montana State is in Montana, unlike Cleveland State, which I believe is in Milwaukee. Like, give me TV. Give me a game. You've already ruined the sport. You can get a second game. It's okay. You've already ruined the Pac-12. You ruined the old Big East. We have 12 teams in the playoff for whatever fakakta reason you want for that. Give me another game when the ball went through the uprights. Now, the good news is we got all games this weekend. And I think this was a good note for everybody out there to sit there and realize, you know what? The preseason rankings do not mean anything in college football. You're going to see number 10 go down to an unranked team. That doesn't mean that Georgia Tech's that much worse than Florida State. It's just, hey, people think that Florida State's going to be good because they were good last year, and they're not. But I wanted a second game, and I'm sitting there on the radio, and I'm like, you know what? It was Chad's opinion, not my opinion. He said it first, but I'm going to put my hand in the air and say he was right. We need a second game. 2 meaningful schools. I don't care where you have to play the game. I do not care where you have to play the game. Play it on Mars. I don't care. But we needed a second game. And not one of, again, these for Fakakta, Florida A&M versus Norfolk State. No. Like a real game. Not like a game that only Caroline would watch. By the way, Joe Rexrode got triggered yesterday. I have got to tell this story. So DJ Uiagalelei sucks, right? Like, it's now well established, Ian, that DJ Uiagalelei sucks.
He's been on like 5 teams.
And again, like what happened was he went to Clemson and he was supposed to be the next guy. It was supposed to be Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence to DJ Uiagalelei. NIL became a thing. He was the first one that got the Dr. Pepper commercial. Then Bryce Young, who had won the Heisman, got the Dr. Pepper commercial. Then Caleb Williams, who won the Heisman, had gotten the Dr. Pepper commercial. I don't even know who got the Dr. Pepper commercial this year. It can't be Jaden Daniels. He's already in the NFL. But he got the Dr. Pepper commercial, and he was terrible. Terrible. Didn't even average 7 yards a pass. So Uiagalelei leaves, transfers from Clemson. He goes to Oregon State. Now, I don't know a single person. I take that back. I do know Kayla Anderson. I don't know a single person, and she's a Washington State fan, but now Washington State only plays Oregon State. I don't know a single person who watches Oregon State football. And so DJ Uiagalelei, like, he, I guess, was okay there. They went 8-5. He comes back to college football, and apparently the college football heads are like, no, DJ is a changed man. That was the same DJ Uiagalelei that I've seen at Clemson who didn't move the needle at all. And I'm like, why'd they put this guy in the Dr. Pepper commercial? So I texted Caroline, and I was like, did the college football world, did they actually think that DJ Uiagalelei didn't suck? And Caroline texted back and said, people like Joe Rexrode. So I texted Joe yesterday, and I said, because he made some comment about sweat or something on Twitter about watching college football. You know, like, people who watch college football know. I said, oh, yeah, people like you that think that DJ Uiagalelei is a changed man only to watch him stink. And Joe was like, Woody, I didn't say any of that. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're. I said, Caroline said that you said that DJ Uiagalelei was a changed man. So Joe texts Caroline and then screenshots it and sends it to me, where he said, he was like, did you tell Jared that I said he was a changed man? She said, no, I made some joking comment or something or whatever. Joe's like, you're a liar. This is all yesterday afternoon. I'm like, a liar? I'm like, she said people like Joe Rexrode. I mean, I don't know how on a text message I'm supposed to imply if there's sarcasm there. Like, the anger that was inside of Joe, you can read it through a text message sometimes, where it's like, wow, this guy is really upset about something that is really not a big deal. He said, okay, so he texted Caroline. I don't know what he said, but he said, I was merely defending myself because Jared came at me and said, you told him that I think he's a changed man. Like what? Slander. Caroline said, wait, what? I never said that. I just said you were a DJU believer jokingly. LOL, he's so dramatic. Joe texts me and says, why are you a habitual liar? Bad look. And I could just sense his anger through that text. I'm like, Caroline said people like Joe Rexrode, so I assume people like Joe Rexrode. And my favorite part of that story is that it wasn't a big deal. Like, my text to Joe, like, wasn't my just mocking him about, oh, yeah, you think DJ Uiagalelei is actually good and he clearly sucks. And it was like, I'm so mad Jared texted, it's like, dude, chill out, man. It's just a text. Oh, goodness. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. So today is a Titans Monday. But I don't know what you all care about more. Do you care more about the things that we learned yesterday? Do we care more about that? The things that we learned yesterday about the actual Titans football team? Or do we care more about who's going to make the team? Is it going to be Matthew Jackson? Is it going to be Caleb Murphy? Is it going to be, you tell me, because I got opinions on both of them. But I personally care more about what's going to affect the Titans in the 2024 season. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 the game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios on a Titans Monday. Now, next Monday, we're off. So that doesn't count as a non-Titans Monday. But actually, I don't think we are off. I think we are not off. I think we're in like a different time slot.
Yeah, maybe like an abbreviated earlier ish show, something like that.
Something like that. So we're not technically off. But next Monday will probably not be a Titans Monday. But then after that, every single freaking Monday is a Titans Monday. Let's go. So when it comes to the Titans, yesterday I sat down, 1:00, they kicked that ball off. Corey told us, hey, everybody be early to watch the game because they're kicking it off pretty quickly on TV. So I don't know if you guys caught the end of Wheel of Fortune last night, but I did. But then they kicked the ball off, and did it not feel like a Sunday afternoon when they kicked the football off? Granted, an hour later, and I wasn't, rushing home to get home from Twin Peaks so I can watch the game with my dad. I was already there. But did it not feel that way? It did to me. But I do wonder for Titan fans, like, what was more important to you? Was the back end of the roster, who might make the 53-man, was that more important to you? Or were some of the things that we saw out of the first team offense and defense, was that more important to you? And for me, the answer was first team offense and defense, because no disrespect to Matthew Jackson and Caleb Murphy and TK McClendon and whomever, those guys are not going to determine whether or not you're going to win on Sundays in the fall. I don't expect to see those guys make a difference in the Chicago game. And I care about the Chicago game. So I don't know if this is going to be a controversial opinion or not, but it is in fact my opinion. I think it's common sense. Some of you might hate it because, again, when they went out and got the Cincinnati offensive coordinator, I think a lot of people just assume that we're going to be the Cincinnati offense, and that's great, but we don't have Joe Burrow. Makes it kind of hard to be Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. But in the Stillman household, and I say we, I'm really just talking about me, we are a Tony Pollard family. And that was my big takeaway from yesterday. No disrespect to anybody else, but I am convinced that Tony Pollard is the best player on the offense. Now, if we were to go over the list of players on the team, Simmons is probably the best player on the team. Snead is probably the second best player on the team. I mean, who's third? Is it Landry? But I will make the argument that what I've seen so far at training camp and what I know of DeAndre, no disrespect to DeAndre, Tony Pollard's the best player on the offense. Tony Pollard's better than Spears. He's more well-rounded as far as the running back position is concerned. I certainly think Spears is more explosive with the football in his hands, when you throw it to him. But I think I'd rather have Pollard's running ability with his receiving ability over Spears and his running ability. Now, again, I'm going to use them both and use them a lot. But the key to football is getting the ball in the hands of your best players. And right now on offense, your best player is Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard was recovering from his broken leg last year, even though he was quote-unquote healthy. I think that he was kind of on the mend, and now I think he's 100%. And I watch Tony Pollard run. He can jump cut. This is going to be very high praise coming from me. And he's not as thick, and he's not as tough of a between-the-tackles runner as Le'Veon Bell. But I do think that he's got that kind of capability. Again, he's not going to be as good as Le'Veon Bell was at his peak in Pittsburgh. But Tony Pollard's a real number one running back now. So when it comes to the Titans, I watched the game yesterday, and I know they'll scheme things up, and I know that they're going to do things a little differently in the game, and that some days it may be, hey, we want to try to take advantage of Levis's arm strength and throw the ball deep here, and I know they paid a receiver $25 million, and DeAndre's going to need his touches, and Tyler Boyd's going to be open, and I got that. But again, this is not the Little League World Series where everybody gets to bat. This is the NFL. And in the NFL, you win on offense by getting your best players the football. And it would be great if the best player on the Titans was the quarterback. Kansas City and Baltimore don't have to find ways to give their best player the ball because their best player gets the ball on every snap. But right now, you're not Kansas City and you're not Baltimore. And your quarterback is not the best player on your offense. It's Pollard. So no disrespect to Spears. And I think Spears is a huge part of what this team's going to try to do offensively. And no disrespect to the wide receivers. Because as the old man used to say, I can find a way to stop you from running the ball. Because I can always bring down one more than you can block. Oh, you've got 8 guys. You've got a 2 tight end set. You've got 8 guys. Well, I'll bring down a 9th. They can always do that. So you're going to have to throw the ball, and you're going to have to spread it around. You're going to have to use the tight ends. You're going to have to all these things. But I want the game plan for Chicago to be built around giving the ball to Tony Pollard. And I thought yesterday, I said this about 3 weeks ago, and I said this more so after a training camp practice out of my concerns about the offensive line, which I know we all have. I was listening to them on the TV broadcast say, a lot of places people are concerned about the quarterback. Here, a lot of people were concerned about the offensive line. Yes, Charles, we were. And because of the offensive line, I felt like this needed to be a run-first team. Because of the young quarterback, who, again, I think you've got to bring a young quarterback along slowly. That's why I think there's a chance Indy's going to regret how they treated Anthony Richardson, because they didn't bring him along slowly. They threw him out there before he was ready, and he got hurt. So I want to bring the young quarterback along slowly, and I want to win football games as soon as possible, because that's how you get confidence for your young quarterback. I want to make things easier for the offensive line, and I want to give my best player the football as much as possible. And the answer to that is Tony Pollard. I know Ridley's making $25 million. I know Hopkins is making somewhere around, 14? Cushenberry's making 12.5. Pollard's the best player on the offense. And you can tell because in each of the 2 preseason games that the starters have played, there's been a big play that's involved Tony Pollard. There's been plays where Tony Pollard gets it, and you're like, that's the Tony Pollard in Dallas. I mean, the offense was so horrendous against the Seahawks that everybody who was searching for something to be positive about said, well, but the first play of the team period, Tony Pollard busted off a big run. What's the common denominator here? Tony Pollard, Tony Pollard, Tony Pollard, Tony Pollard. So while all the talk's going to be about Levis, while I want the Titans to be a throwing team, not as much as you do, because I do enjoy, there's something I enjoy about what Georgia Tech did Saturday at the end of the game, where they looked at Florida State and they said, we are going to run this football right up your keister, and there is nothing you're going to do about it. There is something that I enjoy with that. But I know everybody wants to be Mahomes and Josh Allen, and he's not ready for that. So give the ball to Tony Pollard. Don't worry about stuff in the stat sheets. Don't worry about, just make sure you're giving the ball to Tony Pollard. And I know people are going to go crazy about this because Spears is the homegrown guy and Spears needs to be a big part of the offense. And I don't think it's crazy to look at Tony Pollard right now as your DeMarco Murray. That Titans team, they were rebuilding on the fly. And it was very important that they ran the ball consistently with DeMarco Murray. And again, I think Pollard might be that caliber of player. So if there's anything I took away from yesterday, and again, I know 35 minutes after the game started, all of the players that matter were out. So if we're just looking at that small sample size from the players that do matter against the Saints backups, The one thing that I looked at and I said, okay, this needs to be the identity of the team, is the ball needs to be in the hands of Tony Pollard. I did not look at the text line when I did that because I have no idea if this is a controversial take or not. But I can see some people getting upset saying, no, Jared, we have DeAndre and Ridley and this one and that one, and we want to be. That's great. I want to win. And I think the best way to win is to give the ball to Tony Pollard. Period. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Okay. The Titans have made something official that they really didn't have an option not to at this point. But can we stop acting like this is a good thing? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
The Titans lead the Saints 7-0 in the first quarter with 6:23 to play here in New Orleans. It was a dominant opening drive for the Tennessee Titans offensive line. Now, when training camp started, the right side of that line was a big question mark, and they were hoping that Dylan Radins and Nicholas Petit-Frere could win those positions. Well, they didn't just win those positions. They have clearly separated themselves from the pack, and now it's not a question mark. Now it's actually a spot they feel good about.
Hey, Corey, thank you very much. As he mentioned, it's been a question since the beginning of training camp, Charles. Also a question since the spring. We were there in June at minicamp, and it was a big question at that point, too. From the 10-yard line, James Robinson.
To your point, Paul, most places when you're in the spring, you talk about your quarterback. Can he play? Do we have a new one? What's going on? In Tennessee Titan land, you're exactly right. That offensive line was a big topic of discussion. And that first series there that we just saw, that goes a long way towards people feeling good about getting ready for Chicago.
Corey Curtis. I mean, look, I get it. It's the Titans broadcast. He's wearing the Titans shirt. I got it. But can we play the Corey part of this again? I mean, you guys know I love Corey with all my heart, but play the Corey. Corey's got a beard now because he's trying to be like me. Go ahead and play the Corey part.
The Titans lead the Saints 7-0 in the first quarter with 6:23 to play here in New Orleans. It was a dominant opening drive for the Tennessee Titans offensive line. Now, when training camp started, the right side of that line was a big question mark, and they were hoping that Dylan Radins and Nicholas Petit-Frere could win those positions. Well, they didn't just win those positions. They have clearly separated themselves from the pack, and now it's not a question mark. Now it's actually a spot they feel good about.
Oh, my God. Come on, Corey. They feel good about it. Feel good. Ian, do you feel good about the right side of the line?
I feel okay.
Good?
I can't go there.
I mean, I feel good about Tony Pollard. That's what I feel good about. They're talking about they feel good. And this has kind of been a little bit of a recurring theme with what the Titans are doing. Rand even brought this up they brought this up to Rand. And this is not, anytime I bring up Rand, everybody thinks I'm criticizing Rand. I'm not criticizing Rand, but I am criticizing what I think is now starting to be the narrative that, come on now. This is what they said in the booth.
Hassan Haskins with the carry right there, and we see the offensive line on the right side. And really going back to the winter and the spring, it was such a question. It has to feel good now to have a couple of guys step up and say, don't worry about that anymore. We're your guys.
It feels like they seized the job as opposed to we're giving it.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about, is creating competition. And you'll be better for it, once you've made that decision. And, earlier this week I had Jeff Simmons in the office and just kind of getting his assessment of what he thought. And he felt really good, about the line as a whole. And he was the one that really mentioned the growth of that right side, having been here with these guys for a number of years.
So Corey, Paul, Charles, Rand, and apparently Jeffrey Simmons. Stop bull crapping. I mean, look, it's fine to say, hey, Radins and PT, this is who we're rolling with. This is who we're rolling with at right guard and right tackle. But the idea that those guys won those jobs because competition brought the best out of them, it's just not true. The only reason Radins is the starting right guard is because the guy who was ahead of Radins on the depth chart, Radins wasn't getting first-team reps, folks. The only reason Radins is getting the job is because the guy in front of Radins quit. So, these guys, they've really earned it. Boy, Corey Curtis, they feel good about it. No, they can't. 2 weeks ago, they thought they were going to start the other guy. He called and said, hey, I quit. He just no-showed like it's a job working at the mall. And then with PT, again, I saw some good things out of PT in training camp. And I thought that PT was good yesterday. Now, I also saw some bad things out of PT, and I'm not sold on PT. But, again, the only reason he's starting, he didn't win the job. He didn't go out there and become Lane Johnson. He won the job because the other two guys suck. Duncan and Ojukwu are awful. Like, I hope tomorrow they don't even make the team and the Titans claim 2 tackles from somewhere else to be the swing tackle. Like, just because it's got to be better than Duncan. Like, that's who he was going up against. Duncan, the guy who was worse than Andre Dillard. That's who he was going up against. So this idea of, oh, yeah, no, these guys, they really earned it. No, they didn't. Just like Will Levis didn't earn the starting quarterback job this year. It was his, and he's going with it. Like, Jalen Harrell has earned his spot. He's going to be in the rotation. They're going to have him rush the passer. He's going to play at Chicago some meaningful defensive snaps, and he's earned it. It's really unfortunate that Chance Campbell got hurt, because Chance Campbell, had he been healthy, I think might have gotten some real playing time this year, and he would have earned it. Give it to me.
Okay. The Titans have made a trade. The Titans are sending quarterback Malik Willis to the Packers in exchange for a 2025 7th-round pick.
Yeah. Woo. Okay.
Likely to back up Jordan Love, per Adam
To be
Schefter.
the backup? Who's the backup there right now?
Is it Clifford?
So Malik's going to be the backup and not Clifford?
That's what Schefter says. Willis is likely to back up Jordan Love.
Okay, so here's my initial reaction to that. And, you know, we do have a 53-man roster that we'll have to change to. First of all, I'm shocked somebody was willing to trade for Malik. So let me make that first abundantly clear, that I am surprised that somebody actually gave up a pick. Here's what I think the Titans decided. Because I saw people that were saying, you know, what about a 4th or a 5th round pick for Malik Willis? And I'm like, nobody's going to trade you a 4th or a 5th round pick for Malik Willis. But if they do, yeah. The Titans probably value the 7th round pick and what they'll get out of it. You know, what they could draft in the 7th round. They probably value that and the 4 years of contractual control that they're going to get. I think that they will value that more than Malik being the 3rd quarterback.
Well, the Titans were going to cut him, it sounds like, then, no?
I don't know. Probably, but I don't know. But that's surprising that the Titans were going to cut him because, again, the NFL gives you a free 3rd quarterback. And let me say this. If the Titans don't have a 3rd quarterback on this team this year, I'll be disappointed. Because I think every NFL team that doesn't have a 3rd quarterback is stupid. Every single one of them. Because the last thing I want is somebody going in there and into a big game, and all of a sudden now Mason Kinsey has to play quarterback because, oh, we just had to keep Caleb Murphy on the team, who's never going to play. So that I don't like. My gut is that the Titans probably have like 6 quarterbacks. They know that 4 of the 6 are probably getting released, and they're probably going to sign one of those guys.
You don't think they'll just rock with 2?
I don't.
I think they're just going to rock with 2.
I think that's so stupid. And again, it's not the end of the world because it's the 3rd quarterback, and I don't think the Titans have ever had to use a 3rd quarterback in the entire time I've watched them. And what I'm talking about is use a 3rd quarterback in a game. Like, I think that they've had to use 3 quarterbacks in a season, but you can manage week to week. You know, I remember when Marcus got hurt, they signed Brandon Weeden, and everybody was like, why did you sign Brandon Weeden over Kaepernick? So that I don't have a problem with. But the idea of not having 3 quarterbacks, it's just stupid. It's like the idea of not driving around with a spare tire. When was the last time my tire went flat while I was in the middle somewhere? When my tires go flat, I'm usually right next door to a Firestone. So I don't need to do anything about it. I'll be okay. The NFL's giving you an extra player. Why would you not take the NFL up on their offer for the extra player? So I'm not going to yell and scream about it, even though I just was yelling and screaming about it. I'm not going to yell and scream about the idea of the Titans only keeping 2 quarterbacks, other than the fact that if they do that, I think it is stupid. Just like I think the idea that Dylan Radunz won the right guard spot I just think that's disingenuous. But I also think that's stupid. The guy quit. That's why he won the job. Going with 2 quarterbacks and the NFL's allowing you 3. Stupid.
Well, it sounds like, based on his comments today, almost that Callahan valued the other roster spot for a non-quarterback.
Oh, no.
That's kind of the, vibe I got from his answer about that today. I mean, as you said, how often do you play the third quarterback? Well, you're going to keep up, if a roster spot? Yes.
Yes.
I mean, why?
Because the bottom 7 guys on this team, the bottom 8 guys on this team are all interchangeable and they're all practice squad guys. And none of them get to play quarterback if your first 2 quarterbacks go down.
They can find somebody that could.
No. Malik
play.
Willis gives you a better chance. Malik Willis, Josh Dobbs, whoever. They give you a better chance to win a game than Mason Kinsey does playing quarterback if you have to get to the third quarterback.
In a game, yes.
Yes. Well, so that matters. It's an extra free player
for that game.
The Titans got too many guys and they're too smart, the committee, to say that they need the third guy.
The roster's too deep. It's too deep.
I do not care that they got rid of Malik. That I don't care about, though. I do think I guaranteed Malik was going to make the team.
Let me double check that.
I think I did. But I don't care about that. There is one reason why I think the Titans really made this move. Well, actually 2. And I want to get to that. We'll do it next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Again, Malik Willis traded to the Packers for a 7th-round pick. But there is one person in particular that I think the Titans made this move because of. We'll do that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 The Game.
Clarify the third quarterback rule. I know the league initially sounded like they make a change, then they didn't make a change. And then how much you think those two guys, Mason and Malik, did their part to make the decision hard?
Yeah, they have to be on the active roster, so you got to carry 3. That's how it works. You could still practice squad a quarterback and then still elevate them, but they're still counting. It's not like a free spot. Like it comes across like you get a free spot for a third quarterback, but it's not. It's a roster spot and it's a real one, and you got to carry them on your 53 to get that emergency quarterback. So I would love it if they just made it a 54 spot or a 47 spot on game day or whatever that is, where you could just carry a third quarterback and they can enter the game. If you need them to enter the game, that would be great, but that's not the way it works. And I know they don't want to necessarily pay a 47th spot on game day on top of it. So I get how all of it works and it sounds appealing, but it's still a roster spot at the end of the day. But Malik really showed well for himself in that game. I thought he played well. He put some really nice throws on tape. You still see his athleticism with the ball in his hand. And then Mason just kind of continues to be like the epitome of consistency. And every time he goes in there, the team moves, he completes the ball, and we find success. And it's been really good to see. Both of those guys have competed. I think they've both improved markedly from when we first started in OTAs. And I'm excited about what they've done. And whether that means we keep 3 or we keep 2 and put one on a practice squad, or we just keep 2, we're working through those decisions, over the next 48 hours. And but they've certainly made that decision hard, and that's their job. To make that decision difficult and put something positive enough on tape and make our conversations, we have to really think long and hard about how we're going to handle that. So I'm happy for both those guys for the way they've played and what they've shown.
Malik Willis to the Packers for a 7th-round pick. Also, by the way, LOL at the idea Brian Callahan was pumping, the idea that these guys were competing for the backup spot. Hey, these guys, they've really competed. No, there was never a competition. Now, I think there is one reason, and I hope it's not the second reason. The reason the Titans will tell you they made the trade is because they'll say, oh, it was just so agonizing trying to crunch the numbers to decide who not to put in as the 53rd man. Like, it was so agonizing. I saw TD put out his 53-man roster this morning at ESPN, and he had Otis Reese as 54. You can get Otis Reese to the practice squad. And if you can't get Otis Reese to the practice squad, you can go find somebody exactly like Otis Reese. So when I put the roster together, I came up with 46 guys I thought were going to make the team. That did include Willis. Then there was these were the 7 open spots. It ends up being 8 because Chance Campbell's out for the year with a knee. But here are the guys that I was like, okay, if these guys don't make, these are the guys competing for the last spots. Rupchich, Duncan, Christian, Levin, Kieris Jackson, Mason Kinsey, Hassan Haskins, Julius Chestnut, Otis Reese, Matthew Jackson, Caleb Murphy, Shane Ray, Quentin Bohanna, Abdullah Anderson, Bryce Oliver, Caleb Farley, Trey Avery, Luke Gifford. And I'm sure there are some other guys that are on that list. But again, I got 46, but Campbell's hurt. 45 guys that I'm like, that guy has to make the team. So it can't be that they sat there and said to themselves, oh, no, we already have Malik on the team, but we don't want to, we can't keep Malik because, what are we going to do about Caleb Murphy? My gut tells me that they look at Jalen Harrell and say, well, we've got Malik under contract for 2 more years. We didn't draft Malik, and we're not going to play Malik. We're not going to do what Mike Vrabel did last year with the I'm going to play both guys. We're not going to do that. So what they're going to do is they're going to make the trade in order to send Malik over to Green Bay to get a 7th-round pick, and they're going to tell themselves, we can draft another Jalen Harrell. Now, I don't know if Jalen Harrell is going to actually be good in the games or not. I have no idea. But I think that's probably what they ran, which is the idea of let's run the numbers. How likely is Willis to play over the next 2 years? 5% chance. Let's just say that. 5% chance that Willis has to play over the next 2 years. How many snaps are we going to get out of Jalen Harrell, using him as the example? How many snaps do we think we'll get out of Jalen Harrell over the next 4 years? Well, that's probably why they said, okay, let's take the deal from Green Bay. Now, I haven't watched an ounce of Green Bay preseason football, so I have no idea who their backup to Jordan Love is. Ian, you said it's Sean Clifford?
That is correct.
And I have no idea if this means that Malik is going to be the backup to Jordan Love, that if, for Robbie Stanley's sake, if something happens to Jordan Love, that Malik goes in. It sounds like that's what's going to happen, but I don't know. I think that Green Bay's like, hey, we can upgrade a backup quarterback and it costs us a seventh. Let's do it. And the Titans said, well, we can get 4 years of a future player. Let's do it. If that's the case, then it makes sense. But if the argument is, oh, we were going to cut Malik because Jared, what do we do about Luke Gifford? Then they're morons. So in this case, like the why they did what they did, and not the why what they tell you, but the why they actually did it matters more to me than what it is that they did or didn't do. Because on one hand, it's like, okay, there is reason if you did it because of point A. But you're just stupid if you did it because of point B, if that makes any sense. And I am no Malik fan. Malik's not good. But, I mean, this idea that, oh, Jared, we're not going to take a third quarterback on the roster because we have got to keep Kearis Jackson on the team. No, you don't. There's a Kearis Jackson everywhere. The player that there isn't one of everywhere is Tony Pollard. That you have to keep. Kearis Jackson. When I was a kid, there was a running back on the Titans in 2003. The last time, apparently, I didn't even know this, the last time the Titans went undefeated in the preseason before yesterday. And they had a running back by the name of DeJuan Hicks. And DeJuan Hicks was the talk of training camp. It was all DeJuan Hicks all the time. That's all anybody talked about. I remember the arguments all the time about, on the radio about, oh, are they going to keep DeJuan Hicks? Are they not going to keep him? What are they going to do? They kept DeJuan Hicks for like 3 games and then they cut him. I remember when they signed a guy named Jordan Kramer to replace DeJuan Hicks. So if you want to keep DeJuan Hicks so that you'll go into these games unprotected with the third quarterback, and you just don't, I don't understand this whole Brian Callahan thinking that the 49th player is not a free guy. It's a free guy. It's a free player. You're only allowed 48 active players on game day. You have a third quarterback, you're allowed 49. Free. It's a bonus. It's insurance. I don't know why you wouldn't take the insurance when the insurance is there. So they better get a third quarterback.
Sounds more like a 53-man roster situation than a game day roster situation.
But these players aren't that good. Is Caleb Murphy that good? Maybe. Can you not live without Caleb Murphy?
Well, maybe they're dealing with a lot of inside linebacker injuries. Maybe they needed the extra spot. I don't know.
No, you don't need the extra spot. You can always go get somebody. You can always go get an Otis Reese somewhere else. Last year's Titans team is a great example of that. How many guys did they just pull off of nowhere that went in there and were fine? Remember Andrew Adams, the safety? They just took him off Pittsburgh's practice squad. They'd be fine. Because you can get all those guys somewhere else. The guys you can't get J.C. Latham just anywhere. That's why you don't draft guards with the 11th pick. Because you can go get a guard anywhere. You got Radin. So, yeah, he'll be fine. Put him out there. But if you do not put a third quarterback out there, if you do not have a third quarterback, in my opinion, you're an idiot. That is just say, like, I'm fine with the trade because, again, they're probably going to use Jalen Harrell as the example. They're going to say, hey, Jalen Harrell's going to be on this team. We drafted him in the 7th round. He's going to play meaningful snaps for us. So let's get an extra pick so that next year this can be our Jalen Harrell. Fine. But you need to go sign a third quarterback. And they need to be on the active roster. And there is not an extra guy. And again, I don't care about Malik. This is about the third quarterback. Because I don't want to be the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC title game. And there's not one player on this team that's at the bottom of the roster that I don't think is a practice squad level player. Sorry. Again, I know they're people with families and they're hard workers and they're things like that. I'm sorry, Trey Avery, you are a practice squad player. 615-737-1025. We'll do your phones on this next. Stillman and Company. Again, the news if you're just joining us. The Titans have traded Malik Willis to the Green Bay Packers for a 7th round pick. And I guess Malik's going to be the backup in Green Bay, which is good for him, but better have a third quarterback on this team. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Oh, let's talk about White Bison. That's right. I love White Bison. I love Twice Daily. And I love the fact that when it comes to White Bison, Twice Daily, they have got you covered. White Bison is your spot. I mean, for the new spot, your spot, your local coffee shop, you need to make it White Bison. I absolutely love White Bison. They know what you're craving this time of the year. Pumpkin. That's right. So try their pumpkin cookie frappe, pumpkin spice latte, or vanilla shaken espresso with pumpkin soft whip. They're irresistible. Plus, White Bison Rewards members get your 8th drink free. While you're there, check out their sandwiches and wraps, all freshly prepared right when you order. And for your sweet tooth, try their freshly baked pastries. They go perfectly with any premium coffee expertly prepared by our roast masters. White Bison, finally crafted for you every day. White Bison and Twice Daily. What are you craving?
Crowd comes alive, 3rd and 11. Extra man comes, 5-man rush. Willis to the end zone, right on the money. Touchdown Titans. Bryce Oliver, undrafted rookie out of Youngstown State.
He has played well during camp and in his opportunities out on the field. I think he's got a log jam ahead of him at wide receiver, but he's put some really nice tape out there. And how about this ball from Malik Willis, Paul?
Well,
put it right over the shoulder of the defensive back. And how about the concentration and fierceness of Oliver? So let's check out the offensive line and see what they give him. Good, they take care of business right there. Plenty of space to step up and throw it. And the concentration and the determination by Oliver to make sure the ball's not taken away.
That was Charles Davis and the Malik Willis, the last great moment of what was definitely a up and down ride of the Malik Willis tenure as the Tennessee Titans backup quarterback. It is funny. Somebody texts into the text line. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Says, you spent so much time whining about how bad the guy is, and now you're mad they got something for him. The move gives them the ability to keep someone on the roster so they can IR them, and they'll still be able to find a third quarterback after the IR waiting period. First of all, Texter, they've changed the rule. So you can designate 2 guys, put them on IR tomorrow, and designate them to return. So you don't have to do what you had to before, which was they have to be on the 53, and then you IR them. But here's the thing. You have to understand when the whining came. The whining came when the Titans administration was so stupid that they decided to make Malik a backup quarterback. To which I said at the time, if Ryan Tannehill sprains an ankle, Malik has to go out there and play. And he wasn't ready. I still think he's probably not ready now to be a starting quarterback or maybe even a backup quarterback. But at that point in time, it was obvious to me he wasn't ready. And I'm like, if something happens to Tannehill, he has to play. And now all of a sudden, it's Sunday Night Football against Kansas City, and he has to play. That was my issue then. And I was right, and that's why they had to go sign Josh Dobbs. What I am mad about now is not that they got something for him. Again, they're looking at Jalen Harrell and looking at James Williams and saying, we got 2 guys we think are going to be good players in the 7th round. We want 7th round picks. We value these bag of footballs that we traded Kevin Byard for. We want them. But what I am worried about is the arrogance of the Titans that they would think that they don't need a third quarterback. And again, I think this is any team. I don't care if it's the Titans. I don't care if it's the Steelers. I don't care if it's a respectable franchise like Baltimore. If you do not have a third quarterback, given the rule in the NFL, you are stupid. Period. That's what I feel. Well, how often do 2 quarterbacks get hurt, Jared, that they doesn't matter. It happened in an NFC title game. I mean, Floyd used to tell me that Bill Belichick would open up training camp in the team meeting by holding the football up, and he'd talk about how many people work for the Patriots. Whether it's the senior associate director of college scouting or Tom Brady. All these people work here. And he'd hold the ball up and he'd say, for this is the most important thing. This ball. Nothing matters more in the NFL than winning the games. That's all that matters. So why would you put yourself in position to where you go into a game and if your 2 quarterbacks get hurt, you can't put a third in when the league is giving you the extra player to do so? Just stupid. Terrell says trading Willis is about the money. They'll sign a third quarterback for the minimum. Malik was due like $1.1 million. The veteran minimum was 1.2. So that's kind of the same. Not really that much of a difference. Jason in Dover says, how many times has a team needed a third quarterback? The NFC title game 2 years ago, somebody needed a third quarterback. You guys act like quarterbacks don't get hurt. I remember this when they decided to make Malik the backup, and I bitched about that. And it was like, no, Jared. Tannehill never gets hurt, so it doesn't matter anyways. Yeah, how'd that work out for him? You guys act like this never happens. It only has to happen once for it to ruin it for everybody, to ruin your entire season. And again, the 53rd guy that's going to make this team, whether it's Caleb Murphy or TK McClendon or Jalen Duncan or whomever, A, they suck. Duncan sucks, guys. He sucks. No matter how many times they tell you he doesn't. They tried starting him at left tackle last year. He sucked. They came in this year saying, we're going to give him a chance. They gave him a chance. He sucked. You've seen him in the preseason games. He sucks. Whether it's that guy that's the 53rd guy doesn't make a difference. You can go get a Jalen Duncan anywhere. In fact, last year when they played the Jags in the last game of the year, and they had all those guys out, Murphy, Duncan, McClendon, they weren't even active for the last game. So to me, it's ridiculous. This idea that the Titans would say, like, we're going to go into the games and not have a third quarterback just because, well, how often does a third quarterback play? Well, let me tell you how often the 49th, 50th, 51st, 52nd, 53rd guy plays on the roster in an NFL game. Ian, how often does guy number 49 through 53 get in an NFL game?
Well, they're not active usually for
Never.
the game, so
they can't play.
Depending on the week, you might have one positional group active, even though more so than the other, even though they might be the 50th player, if you need extra offensive linemen compared to extra linebacker, and one's technically ranked higher than the other. But
so this is not about Malik Willis. I don't care about that. This is about the third quarterback and the third quarterback rule that the third quarterback has got to be on the active roster. One texter says, you can find Willis on any practice squad. Right, but he can't play in the games if he's on a practice squad. Also, by the way, apparently you can't because Green Bay's making him the backup. Robbie said, I asked Robbie, I said, is he going there to back up or is he going there to, and Robbie said, Sean Clifford is awful. They drafted Pratt from Tulane in the 7th round and he also sucks. Robbie didn't say sucks. He said not good, but he sucks. 615-737-1025. More your phone, 615-737-1025. Plus, an absolute meaningless stat. At 1063 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So they flashed this on the TV broadcast on a Titans Monday, I should inform everybody. They flashed this on the TV broadcast. Don't know if you saw it at the very, very end of the game when the Titans pulled it out. And they said 3-0 in the preseason, first undefeated preseason since 2003. And I don't really know what 3-0 in the preseason means. But the one thing I do know about 3-0 in the preseason is that it can't be a bad thing, can it? You know, Corey Curtis said on the show that on Friday, he said that the Lions were 4-0 in the preseason the year before they went 0-16. But I don't think that that is a direct correlation. And Brian Callahan talked after the first preseason game about wanting to set a culture of winning. Now, again, I'm not sure that winning in the preseason actually affects that, but can't hurt. So here's what when I think of the Titans, I feel like when it comes to the Titans, they made it through the preseason, no disrespect to Chance Campbell, without any major injuries, right? Like, it's not, I know Chance Campbell, it sucks for him, and he was going to help the team on special teams and maybe even play some linebacker. So but it's not the same as J.C. Latham. I mean, the biggest loss that they saw during the training camp period was when Sadiq Charles just up and quit the team. And I mean, I'm sorry, but if that's going to be your approach, that, oh, I'm not happy or I don't like it anymore, so I quit, then I don't want you on the team anyways. They had some good team building moments throughout the preseason and training camp, like when Narveson hit the game winner and everybody ran out on the field and they started, high-fiving and slapping butts and everything else. And I, don't think that's a bad thing at all. So you get some team building moments in there. I guess DeAndre had a knee injury, but it sounds like he'll be okay. You get some team building in there. You don't get anybody hurt seriously. And if you win some games along the way, great. Got what I thought were meaningful reps for the young quarterback and meaningful reps for the offensive line. And so I got to say, I don't think the 3-0 really matters, but I do think that it was a good preseason for the Tennessee Titans. Doesn't mean that I think they'll have a good team, but I think this was a positive step. Outside of Jeffrey Simmons' embarrassing situation, or we want to call it, with Buck, which that was an all-timer. Now, there was one thing from the game on Sunday that I do look at and say, oh, Lord, this is a good sign. Do you have any idea what it is? Ian, do you want to take a guess?
Something is a good sign?
I saw this and I was like, oh, baby.
Where are you going?
The Brian Callahan challenge.
Okay, that was a good challenge.
They throw the ball on the sideline. They pick up a first down. Me sitting at home watching the game on TV, I could not, in Lifetime, if a guy steps out, I'm like, did he step out right there? Let's look at the replay. And I'll be yelling and screaming at the TV, CBS, show us the replay. And there have been times over the years where I've seen something and I'm like, Vrabel needs a challenge. Vrabel needs to challenge. And he won't challenge. And then after the game's over, he gets up there at the podium, Vrabel does, and says things like, we're all stupid. And, they wouldn't overturned it anyway, so I don't think there was any reason why we should have challenged. When the truth is, Vrabel might have been out back having a smoke break and not paying attention to throw the red flag. But it's all about the people upstairs. And for Vrabel, he had Stretch, who I didn't really know, but I don't really think much of. And Vrabel thinks hangs the moon. And if Stretch didn't say challenge it, then if Vrabel knew not to challenge. Well, I don't know who's in charge of challenging for Brian Callahan. Again, Brian Callahan's on the sideline with the laminated play sheet, the tight pants, and the latte and everything else. And so he couldn't. There's no way he saw that guy step out of bounds. So somebody up in the booth who's doing their job said, okay, let's just look at this on the sideline. Oh, Brian, challenge it. And he trusts his guy upstairs. He says challenge, throw the red flag, boom. And when you see the replay, when News 2 or the Titans broadcast, when they showed the replay, it was obvious that the guy was out of bounds. And so what I imagine this means is that unlike years past, when the coaching staff was either too arrogant to throw a challenge flag or had their heads up their asses, in this case, it looks like, hey, Brian Callahan might actually have a good system in place for how to challenge. Because again, a small little challenge in a meaningless preseason game doesn't really mean much for me. But if that's Chicago and that's Roma Dunze on that sideline and that's a first down and you can force Chicago to punt and you're going to win the challenge, I'd love to be able to throw the flag there and get it back. So to me, that's a great sign that Brian Callahan's system is intact and in place for them to be able to adequately challenge. There was a game at Miami 7 years ago, maybe. A game in Miami, and the Titans lost. Matt Castle played quarterback. Jonnu Smith got called for offensive pass interference, brought a touchdown off the board. And the Titans lost the game. And at the end of the game, the Titans were trying to get the ball back. And Miami was short of the marker, or it looked like they were short of the marker. Ian, do you remember this?
Maybe.
It looked like Miami might have been short of the marker. The Titans did not have enough timeouts to stop it, and it was right before the 2-minute warning. So it's like, take the shot. And if you challenge the spot and it comes back as inconclusive or you don't win, you're going to lose the game anyways. So you might as well take the challenge. And Mike Mularkey didn't challenge. And Mike Mularkey was asked after the game why he didn't challenge. And Mike Mularkey was like, well, I mean, they weren't going to overturn it anyways. Well, you don't know if you don't try. And the benefits of being successful, in this case, far outweigh the ramifications of being wrong. So, again, I got excited yesterday about that challenge because it was right there on that sideline, and it's a very minor thing that you have to really be doing your job. You really have to be paying attention in order to be able to see that. And clearly Brian Callahan's guy or guys that are in charge, or gals, they got women on the coaching staff, whoever's in charge of that clearly was paying attention yesterday. It gives me hope they'll be paying attention during the regular season. One texter texted in and said, I'm calling it, it's the challenge the Titans won. I mean, hey, you're right. You are right about that. It was the challenge. And again, it's just a good sign. It is a positive sign that makes me feel good about the coaching staff having their ducks in a row. Doesn't mean that it's going to be, all roses and they're going to get every challenge and everything. The one thing they can't do is challenge something that we see the replay and say, what? Or not challenge something and it's like, well, we didn't have time to be able, and they got to the line and no. We have got to be paying attention for whatever that's worth. Apparently, Rob Reiterer is the assistant director of football strategy and an analytics guy the Titans brought in from Baltimore. So I guess he might be the guy they're saying that is the one that's in. If so, good job, Rob. Way to go. Now, just like with Tony Pollard, and way to go, Tony Pollard, yesterday. Now let's go do that against Chicago. That's how I feel about the replay guy. Good job yesterday. Now let's turn around and let's get ready for Chicago. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025 here on the program. Again, the news, Malik Willis traded. I do wonder if that's going to affect the 53-man roster. I mean, obviously it's going to, because I had Malik on the team. But I do wonder how that's going to affect Malik to Green Bay for a 7th-round draft choice, and Malik will be backing up. Now, I did write down the hardest decisions that I had to make on the 53-man roster, and Willis wasn't one of them. So what were the hard ones? The ones that, oh, God, I mean, that's a valuable roster spot. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 again.
What you're saying sounds like an NCAA tournament committee who's watched all the way through, been locked in. But by the time you get to the last day, your decisions have essentially been made. Now you just have to see if you have to do any changes based off of injury or different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the work, we're never not working.
Right.
You know, even on this trip, you know, guys are working. We've met and we've talked and had conversations. Callie and I had conversations on the plane yesterday. We had conversations in pregame about who, you know, guys that could come available. So we're never not working. So you don't get to a point in the process where while we're cutting our team, we're trying to panic and rush back to get other teams figured out. But we've already done that work and put the work in. And, you know, you just sit back and kind of see how it all is going to unfold.
That was Rand Carthon yesterday on the TV broadcast. And while we were during the break, I saw a very interesting take that I hadn't thought about on Twitter. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know who Malik Willis's agent was. But Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites, I think Paul did like a whole segment off of a report that Chad Forbes had, or just some gossip or something that Chad put out there. Like Paul treated it like it was a report and kind of laughed about that. But this Chad Forbes, I've actually had agents tell me like, hey, this guy, he's, I don't know what level of plugged in, but there's something, that there's something, whatever. Like, you should follow Chad Forbes. And I've followed him for years. And Chad Forbes just kind of has some like brash, direct, honest takes. Like, he understands it's pure league gossip. Well, I like gossip, especially league gossip. And again, he's blunt and to the point, and he, says things like things that you wouldn't say because you don't want to get in trouble for saying it. He says these kind of things. Doesn't mean they're always true, but again, he says them. And so he put a tweet out there, again, at NFL Draft Bites. He put a tweet out there that actually got me thinking, on the Malik front. He said, 7th rounder for Malik Willis, ? At David Mulligetta has some real power nowadays. Wanted his client in Green Bay, and the Titans obliged. So he basically says that, hey, David Mulligetta wanted Malik Willis in Green Bay, and so he went to the Titans, and he said, hey, again, this is how tampering really works, is Green Bay's looking for a backup quarterback, and everybody knows it, and Mulligetta. And I believe Mulligetta and Rand have a very good relationship. Now, I believe that was a big part of the Calvin Ridley thing. And Mulligetta's got a superstar client list. And I'm sure that Mulligetta wasn't very happy about the Kevin Byard trade when that went down. And I could totally see the Titans looking at it and saying, okay, do we want a 7th rounder? What do we want from Malik? Somebody on Twitter said yesterday, if the Titans can get a 4th or a 5th rounder from Malik, I'd take that. Like, no duh. If they got offered a 4th or 5th rounder, you'd take it. I mean, 90% of the roster, you would trade for a 4th or a 5th rounder. You would trade Radens for a 4th or a 5th rounder. You trade. So yeah, of course you'd make that trade. But a 7th? Is a 7th rounder, which is really a glorified undrafted free agent, especially in today's era of NIL, is a 7th rounder really worth the insurance policy that is Willis as the 3rd quarterback? That could be a legitimate debate. But if the agent, who again you have a good relationship with, and by all accounts, Rand has a good relationship with Mulligetta. I think he's actually got a great relationship with Mulligetta, from what I've been told. I see the idea of, hey, David saying, hey, Green Bay, the agent wants Willis to go to Green Bay because Willis then gets to be the number 2. Willis wasn't going to be the number 2 here. So if the agent is close with the GM and he works out the deal, then it's kind of like a, hey, this is we're scratching somebody's back. In fact, I asked somebody for a favor today. I ask for favors and I get asked for favors. It happens. But I asked somebody for a favor today. And it's not a big favor, but it's a favor that could be a pain in the ass. And it's just like, I hate asking for it, but it's going to make my life easier. And I could always have said something like, hey, man, if you need whatever, I'll take care of it. But I didn't. Because in the case of that relationship with that friend of asking for a favor, he already knows if he had something and he asked me, I'd do whatever I could. And that's kind of the same way I feel about this. So in this instance, Rand's got Malik Willis as the 3rd quarterback, the insurance option. And what is Willis compared to the rest of the league if you were to go out and pluck somebody who gets cut? Let's say Nate Sudfeld. I don't even know if he still plays football anymore, but Nate Sudfeld, and he's out there. Okay, he's the 3rd quarterback. Probably not that big of a difference. But if David Mulligetta, who represents all of these big-time players in the NFL and also represents Malik, if they were to be sitting there And David Mulligetta says, hey, man, is there any way we could get Malik somewhere where he can be number 2? Because even though Malik said all the right things and he's done all the right things, and, we'd really prefer that Malik be number 2, I think that I would look at that and say, hey, if there's an opportunity that we have that we can justify, let's do it. And it wouldn't surprise me if Green Bay was looking for a backup quarterback, called Mulligetta, who represents Jordan Love. TD just texted me and said he represents Jordan Love and Quandre Diggs. I think Titans got a pretty good deal on Quandre Diggs. But it wouldn't surprise me if Mulligetta, if the Packers say, hey, we're interested in a backup quarterback, what's out there? And Mulligetta said, hey, Malik at Tennessee, he's gotten better. Go watch him against New Orleans. He's gotten better. And they said, well, he's got these great clients and we want to keep a good relationship. And what the hell? It's better than Sean Clifford. And the Titans looked at it and said, what the hell? A 7th? It's better than nothing. And he's going to be our 3rd. I could absolutely see Mulligetta being the one to pull that off. That's why you hire an agent. That's why. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but I thought it was very fascinating conjecture. And if that's the case, I totally understand why they did it. I'm totally for it. They still need a 3rd quarterback. And apparently 13 teams last year carried a 3rd quarterback. I don't care. If 13 teams carried a 3rd quarterback, then that means how many teams didn't carry a 3rd quarterback? 19? My math right on that?
Yep.
Okay. That means that 19 teams in the NFL are stupid. Are either stupid or arrogant. One or the other. Because it's a free player. And I don't know about other teams' rosters. The Titans don't have 53 guys worth keeping. One texter says, I love how you said Radens is a better football player than Willis without saying it. Did I say that?
I'm not sure. That didn't really come to my mind. No.
I didn't. I'm saying the Titans would trade any backup on the team. The Titans would trade any backup on the team. The Titans would trade for a 4th or a 5th round pick. They traded Kevin Byard for a 5th and a 6th round pick. You think they wouldn't trade the 3rd quarterback for a 4th or a 5th round pick? She's got a very funny text message. Makes me laugh out loud. Matt says, does Willis to Green Bay hurt our chances in week 3 because of the info he'll bring? Matt, I hate to break it to you, but, Mike Sando came out with the quarterback tiers. I don't know if you guys, we'll probably get into this a lot tomorrow because it's going to be so painful sitting here thinking oh God, they cut Jaron Christian. That's going to be really hard for me to do. So we'll probably get into the quarterback tiers a lot, but Sanders did the quarterback tiers. And I see some of the quotes from defensive coordinators, and I'm always like, and that's why you coach defense, not offense. I guarantee you that Matt LaFleur knows more about the Titans offense and what Brian Callahan wants to do and what Brian Callahan was doing in Cincinnati than Malik. Even though Malik was in the offense, I can guarantee you that Matt LaFleur knows better. So no, I don't think that would change much. Maddie said that you take a 4th for Willis and take a 4th for Radens. Texter took that out of context. Texter says the Titans got punked. A 7th round pick for an improving young quarterback with good raw tools that just needed additional coaching. The potential upside would have been worth keeping for one more year in the system. And Jared, I agree with you. The Titans need a 3rd quarterback. Well, if it's to curry favor to strengthen a relationship with an agent, I see why they did what they did, and Malik's not that special. If the Titans are just, the one thing that I can't accept is if the Titans decide at the end of the day that they cannot think about life without Jalen Duncan or without Hassan Haskins or without the 53rd guy. And I think those guys both are comfortably making the team. But if they're like, oh, what are we going to do about Caleb Murphy? Then I got a problem because I think they need a third quarterback no matter what. I think you're an idiot if you don't have a third quarterback. I'd stand by it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Okay. Had to make some changes to the 53-man roster, but it is coming out next here on the program. Stillman and Company. Let's talk about FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. I absolutely love it, and you've heard me talk about FanDuel a lot. It's also America's #1 sportsbook. Well, guess what? FanDuel has something a little different for you because now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and right then and there, you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/JGM to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. 21 and over and present in Tennessee. First full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Titans general manager Rand Carthon continues to spend his third quarter in the broadcast booth. So where are you with this process of getting this roster right now down to that number of 53?
Well, we've been locked in a room, the past 3 or 4 days, looking at all the potential guys that could come free. And our staff, helmet on.
That's good coverage right there. If you're going to kick it, you got to kick it from inside the 30, right?
How about that? Caleb Farley with the play.
Nice.
How about that? Caleb Farley making the play. And who knows what that means for Caleb Farley making the Titans one way or another. So, we've done, how many have we done with this, Ian? I feel like this is our fourth.
I believe that is correct. Yeah.
We did a 53-man roster before each of the preseason games, and now I believe tomorrow at 3 o'clock is when they'll make it official. Maybe it's 4 o'clock.
It's 3 Central.
Okay,
All
so
teams
I was
tomorrow,
like,
3 Central.
there's no point in doing this on Tuesday and everything else. By the way, somebody said in the YouTube chat there might be a reason you ain't a GM and barely got a radio show. Barely got a radio show? What are you talking about? Been doing this for 10 years. Barely. Some people just hate. All right. Let's get to our final Titans 53-man roster, and there have been 2 changes since I did this morning because we found out Chance Campbell got hurt and Malik Willis has been traded to the Green Bay Packers for a 7th-round pick. So I've got 45 locks down from 46. Actually, 44 locks. I had 46 this morning, and again, obviously, Willis and Campbell. So here are the guys who have made the team, and we're not even having discussions. They're on it. Don't talk to me about it. The end. Quarterback, 2, Levis and Rudolph. Running back, 2, Pollard and Spears.
Just 2.
Locks, yes. Now, when we only got 45, and we got 53 guys we got to pick.
Okay, fair enough.
Wide receiver, 6. Hopkins, Burks, Ridley, Boyd, NWI, and Jaquan Jackson. Tight end, 4. Okonkwo, Wiley, Vanette, and Martin Robinson. Again, Martin Robinson is a lock. Offensive line, 6 locks. Latham, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Radens, Nicholas Petit Frere, a.k.a. PT, and Brunskill. Those are your locks. That doesn't mean we're only carrying 6 offensive linemen into the season. Defensive line, 4, Simmons, Sweat, Coburn, and Joseph Day. Outside linebacker, 4, Key, Landry, Harrell. And I mean, I've got Weaver. I've got Weaver as a lock, but God, I am tired of watching him play.
He needs to do something, huh?
He's not good. Inside linebacker. Now, this is 4 with like an asterisk by it, right? Because I think Cedric Gray's going on IR, and it's the IR where you don't come back.
Really?
But Murray, Gibbons, Williams, and I guess I got to say Gray. They're not going to cut a 4th-round pick. But again, I think he ends up on IR. But let's just say we can't assume it, so he's there. Now, Campbell, we know, is going on IR, so that's not even worth discussing. Corner, 5, Snead, Awuzie, McCreary, Brownlee, and Judy Lawley. I think that's pretty straightforward. Safety, 4, Hooker, Diggs, Adams, Molden. Special teams, 3, Folk, Stonehouse, and Cox. So those guys are the locks. Ian, is there anybody on that list that you say to yourself, that's a lock to make the team?
No, sounds about right.
Okay. All the other stuff we can consider. And so here's the list of guys for what was originally 7 open spots. Now it's 9. Here are the list of guys that I am willing to consider. Rupchich, Duncan, Jaron Christian, Corey Levin, Kieris Jackson, Mason Kinsey, Hassan Haskins, Julius Chestnut, Otis Reese, Matthew Jackson, Caleb Murphy, Shane Ray, Quentin Bohanna, Abdullah Anderson, Bryce Oliver, Caleb Farley, Trey Avery, and Luke Gifford. Quarterback, right now it's 2 because they don't have the 3rd guy there yet. But they need to get a third quarterback before the Chicago game. Put that to the side. Running back. I think a lot of people are going to have Haskins and Chestnut make the team. I just have Haskins making the team. I want that extra spot. So, as of right now again, I'm going to get an extra guy to pick from because I originally had Malik making the team. But right now, Haskins in, Chestnut out. Offensive line. I'm sticking with my 6 receivers. Sorry, Kyrus Jackson. Sorry, Mason Kinsey. But you guys can go to the practice squad. So I'm sticking with 6 at receiver: Hopkins, Burks, Ridley, Boyd, NWI, and Jackson. I'm sticking with the 4 tight ends: Okonkwo, Wiley, Vanette, Martin Robinson. There's no need for somebody else. I need at least 2 offensive linemen, probably 3. Brunskill makes the team because, quite frankly, I think if anybody gets hurt, Brunskill should go in. Even if that means Brunskill going to left tackle. If something were to happen to J.C. Latham, I think I'd move PT to left tackle and I'd stick Brunskill at right tackle. So Brunskill is the number 1 replacement. I have Rupchich, who I think is a practice squad level player, but when Sadiq Charles quits, you got what you got. I've got Rupchich, Jaron Christian, who didn't do a damn thing, by the way, to help himself make this team. And I have Jalen Duncan on the team just because that's what I think they'll do. I probably wouldn't keep Jalen Duncan. I think Jalen Duncan is terrible. But I need a backup tackle. I need a backup guard. And I need kind of a guy that can swing around a little bit. That's Christian. So those are my backups on the offensive line: Rupchich, Christian, and Duncan. We had 9 extra spots to fill, and now we filled 4, which means we have 5. And I thought about Levin, but he's a veteran, so what I'll do is I'll let him go out, and if I want to get him, I'll get him after week 1. I'm going to add a guy on the defensive line. I might add 2, but as of right now, I'm adding 1. And I'm adding Abdullah Anderson. They signed him 2 weeks ago, and in both preseason games, he made a play. So he makes the team. So now we've got 3 more spots to go. I've got to replace Chance Campbell on the roster, and I think Chance Campbell was going to play a lot of special teams. So I think that's going to clear the way for Luke Gifford. So I'm going to put Luke Gifford on the team, even though he's in the concussion protocol right now. I would not have put Luke Gifford on the team this morning when I thought Chance Campbell was going to make it. But now that Campbell's out, I'm going to hope they IR Gray, but I can't assume they're going to do that. So he'll make the team simply because he was a 4th-round pick. That's the only reason. But Gifford makes the team at inside linebacker to go with Murray, Gibbons, Williams, and Gray. And if they do put Gray on IR, then Otis Reese would go into the lineup in that spot. Matthew Jackson is going to make the team as a safety. I don't necessarily need to add Matthew Jackson, but Matthew Jackson can play special teams, and he was picking passes off in training camp. And so, again, Ian, as I've told the story many times, one time the GM got to like 49 on a roster, and he said, "That's my roster." I said, 53. He said, "Well, I got the 49 guys that belong in the NFL."
Sure.
That's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put Matthew Jackson on as a safety, Shane Ray on as an extra pass rusher, Caleb Farley as an extra corner. I thought long and hard about Farley today. And here's why I put Farley on the team. Number 1, Farley's money is guaranteed. So I don't have a problem with just flushing the money away when it's not going to come to fruition at all. But is it worth flushing the money away to put Trey Avery on the team? I don't think it is. Number 2, that's the best football play I've ever seen Caleb Farley make. And before he got hurt in training camp, it was the best football I've ever seen Caleb Farley play. Again, we're talking about the 53rd spot. He will be inactive against Chicago if this is my team. And third, I think it says something to the rest of the team to see what Farley's been through, both personally and professionally, and to say, this guy's made it because he's a part of us. Again, if this were a decision between Judy Lally and Farley, the sentimental value would go out the window. But it's not. It's between Farley and Caleb Murphy, Farley and Mason Kinsey, Farley and Bryce Oliver, Quentin Bohanna. So Farley makes the team. So here's the 53. Quarterback, 2. But I will be releasing somebody or IRing Cedric Gray in order to get a third quarterback. Levis and Rudolph. Running back, 3. Pollard, Spears, Haskins. Receiver, 6. Hopkins, Ridley, Burks, Boyd, NWI, and Jaquan Jackson. Tight end, 4. Chigakonkwo, Josh Wiley, Nick Vanette, David Martin Robinson. Offensive line, 9. J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronsky, Lloyd Cushenberry, Dylan Radens, Nicholas Petit-Frere, Dylan Brunskill, Andrew Repchich, Jaron Christian, and Jalen Duncan. Defensive line, 5. Simmons, Sweat, Coburn, and Joseph Day, along with Abdullah Anderson. Outside linebacker, 5. Key, Landry, Harrell, Weaver, and Ray. Inside linebacker, technically, as of now, 5. Cedric Gray is the 5th guy. Murray, Gibbons, Gifford, Williams, and Gray. Corner, 6. Sneed, Awuzie, McCreary, Brownlee, Judy Lally, and Farley. Safety, 5. Hooker, Diggs, Adams, Molden, and Jackson. Special teams, 3. Folk, Stonehouse, and Cox. And again, as these coaches say, it is so hard to be able to do this. I actually think it's the opposite. They're saying hard in terms of cutting guys. I'm saying hard in terms of getting to 53. All right, to your phones next. 615-737-1025. Again, the news of the day, Malik Willis to the Green Bay Packers in exchange for a 7th-round draft choice. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, and we'll give something away at the very end of the show. Trust me on it, 1025. And it's actually a good prize, 1025, 1063 The Game.
talked a lot about being excited about different benchmarks in your first go around. Is this the couple days of a benchmark that you're not excited about at all?
No, not at all. Like as I've said, it's you got relationships with these guys. They play hard, they practice hard, they do everything you ask, and sometimes you're cutting good players. Sometimes you cut guys and that might be it for their football journey. Some guys you cut that are going to go on and play for somebody else, and you hope that they play well and you wish them well. But it is not a process that is very enjoyable. I don't know if you can see the joy emanating from me today, but it's not fun just because the amount of respect you have for guys and what they've done and how they've gone about their business. It means a lot to me as a coach, and you appreciate it. That's the best way you can go about it, is just you thank them for their contribution and their efforts, and you hope that it works out. And if you can help them in the future, you try to. But yeah, it's not a very fun benchmark to check off for me.
There you go. That was Brian Callahan. Let me say this. It was a hard benchmark for me to get to 53 players. Don't know if that sounds cold or callous or whatever it may be. But again, I don't know these guys, and I'm not the one that has to sit down with them and say, son, it's not working out here. I do hate that. Let's go to phones as promised. The phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Dylan in Antioch has been waiting patiently. Dylan, thank you for waiting. Go ahead. I'm Malik Willis.
Hey, yeah, first, real quick, I have a quick story about running into Joe Rexrode last week. I was on a first date last Thursday. We had decided.
Dylan, nobody cares, man. Just get to the take on Willis.
Oh, did Ian not tell you?
No. Just get to the take.
All right. I'm happy for Willis. I'm very happy for him. He has obviously gotten better. He's gotten a lot better, and I think it's good for him to have a shot at Green Bay. I mean, I'm sure Love is going to get hurt at some point. So, I had such a good story. Oh, come on.
Ian, is it worth Dylan telling it on the air?
I don't know the full story.
Okay. I'll nah.
No, Dylan, I appreciate it, but nobody
right.
cares. Thank you
All
for your
right.
call. Unless you went into again, I don't even want to speculate, but there's no way. There's no way. I do want to touch on this, by the way, as I'm going through your phones. Maddie in the text line says, my goodness, that clip, and the clip is referring to the one that we played at the beginning of last segment, where the Caleb Farley hit, where he popped the helmet off. Ian, can we get that again? This is the play-by-play cut of the best football play in the history of Caleb Farley that came on a kickoff yesterday. Go ahead and play the cut.
Titans general manager Rand Carthon continues to spend his third quarter in the broadcast booth. So where are you with this process of getting this roster right now down to that number of 53?
Well, we've been locked in a room, the past 3 or 4 days, looking at all the potential guys that could come free. And our staff, helmet on.
There.
That's good coverage right there. If you're going to kick it, you got to keep it from inside the 30, right?
How about that? Caleb Farley with the play.
Nice.
Okay. Maddie says that clip sent me into a fury. I'm so sick of watching a third of my TV while the announcers are interviewing someone. I swear if they do that in the season, I'm going to lose it. Well, you watch enough football to know they're not going to do that during the season. But let me just say this. Can I make a suggestion to the Titans broadcast? I understand that the Titans don't spend a lot of money on the production value. The graphics are terrible. If you saw the Saints broadcast, they had the Fox graphics for the game. Other teams have the actual CBS graphics. Why can't News 2 use the Monday Night Football, ABC? Why can't they use the Monday Night Football? Real graphics and not just something that I could literally make on paint. But I got to tell you what drove me crazy was, I get it, it's a preseason game and these guys kind of stink. But you don't need to show me Rand standing up there with the two guys in the booth in front of that backdrop they have with a Titans logo from 2002. Once you come back from break, hey, Paul Burmeister, Charles Davis, Titans general manager Rand Carthon joining us in the booth here. So let's go 2nd down and 3. Rand, there are a lot of tough decisions to make. Show the game! Again, I understand we want to hear what Will Levis has to say on the sideline with Corey. We want to hear Tavondre Sweat on the sideline with Corey. We want to hear him on the sideline. We want to hear him in the booth. I get it. Got it. Show the game. The amount of a third of the screen being Chad Brinker and the two guys up in the booth, and a third of the screen being the game, and then all the extra window dressing around it. Show the game. I didn't buy an 85-inch television so that you could shrink the size of the game. Like, show the game. Please, everybody, please. Like, oh, goodness gracious. Unbelievable. And that just, I was like, after that, I feel like I've lost like whatever sense it was I was supposed to be talking about. One texter says, if Malik is worth a 7th, we need to dump Burks for a 12th round pick in 2030 and pay that $6 million for them to take him. I mean, Burks had a catch yesterday, right? I think he did.
I think maybe if he did, it was just one. Yeah, I think that's right.
He drew a pass interference in the end zone.
He did draw a PI. Yeah, got the first down.
I mean, you can't say that that's bad. I mean, to me with Burks, I'd set my thing at like a 4th round pick. If I can get a 4th round pick for Burks, I'll trade him. If I can't get a 4th round pick, I'm not trading him. Because the value of him as a backup receiver is more to me than a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick. I mean, I think the thing with Willis, what will be fascinating is would they have kept Willis, and they'll never tell you, but would they have kept Willis if they didn't get an offer for an actual pick that they could use? Because the other thing they could do with the 7th round pick is they could use this as a trade chip. You know, if there's a guy in Cincinnati who Brian Callahan likes, or if there's a guy in Jacksonville who Nick Holes likes, or if there's a guy with the Raiders that Bo Hardegree likes. Like, let's say that the Raiders decide that Aiden O'Connell can't be their backup because he sucks, and Bo Hardegree is like, you know what? I really liked working with him last year. I think we can develop him, and that after a year, he'll be on the bench, but then he can take over for Rudolph, and maybe he's more of Willis, so let's use the 7th round pick. Fine. That I get. But I do wonder, would they have cut Willis no matter what? A lot of people are making the assumption they would have. After seeing the David Mulligetta thing and wondering about Mulligetta saying, hey, my client can go be a backup, and he's going to be 3rd for you, it would not surprise me if that was what ended up being the determining factor. So now the 13 days, the march until Chicago is upon us. Tomorrow we will, in live time, break down the 53-man roster, see how many of them we got right, if we should be mad. The Commodore Hour is up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 the game.